Aye. We are recording.
Apologies for the delay. This is the German Village. Exploding soda.
You thought you were getting started.
Here we go. We take care of that. This is the German Village Meeting Commission hearing. Today is February 1st, 2023. It is 4:13 p.m. here at 111 Front Street, second floor, room 204. The next business meeting will be Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 at 12 p.m. noon here at 111 Front Street. The next hearing will be Wednesday, March 1st, 2023, 4 p.m., 111 Front Street, second floor, room 204. Go ahead and swear in staff. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
And please take your name for the record.
Nicole Urson.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Oh, me as well, sorry. One additional.
Sure.
I do. Morgan Graff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll go through the line of commissioners present. Start left,
Jeff Ferriel. Ned Field.
Anthony Hartke, Chair.
Charissa Durst. Karen McCoy.
All right. We'll go ahead and move to the staff approvals. If there's any recusals
None here.
here. I need to recuse myself from the 363 Jackson location. Hearing none other, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the staff approvals.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Moving to the minutes from the last meeting. There's a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Moving on to the items, the applications for certificates of appropriateness. Item 1, GV-22-11-034, 703 South Fifth Street. And once you're both settled, if you please raise your right hands. And if you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I did.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Julie Bullock, architect.
Andy Tripp, property owner.
Thank you very much. Staff can read it in.
The proposed work description, new construction of a carriage house. Application was previously reviewed as a conceptual during the September 2022 hearing to demolish the existing garage that was built in 1968, to construct a new two-story framed carriage house with a porch on the west elevation, structure to be 22 feet 6 inches tall, with the average height of structure along the alley being 23 feet. Carriage house to have bevel wood siding to match rear addition on the main house and will match profile and exposure. Garage doors will be wood. Variance recommendations, 333205, area district lot width requirements to reduce the minimum lot width required at the front lot line from 50 feet to 30.5 feet for the existing lot. 3332.14 R2F area district requirements to reduce the minimum lot area from 6,000 square feet to 5,205.7 square feet for the existing lot. 3332.25 maximum side yards required to allow for a side yard some 3.83 feet of, whereas 4.96 feet is required for the existing home. 3332.26 one minimum side yard permitted to allow for a 1.23 foot setback along the south property line and a 2.6 foot along the north property line for the existing house. 3332.38 G to increase the allowable height of the detached garage from 15 feet to 22.6 feet. And 333238 H to allow for habitable space over the garage. Staff analysis, including summary of any previous review. The application was previously reviewed as conceptual during the September 2022 hearing. The following is taken from the approved November 2nd, 2022 German Village Commission hearing minutes. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Foley said the variance 333238G should be amended from 22 feet to 22.6 feet to reflect the corrected application. Commissioner McCoy asked if the height was still taller than the primary residence. Applicant stated yes. Commissioner Ferriel asked if there are any houses of this size that have carriage houses attached to them elsewhere in German Village. Some of the commissioners agree that the architectural style of the house and the characteristics of the house does not support a carriage house. They have additional concern with the incremental changes to architectural appearances of German village that have been happening lately. Some commissioners are fine with the carriage house being constructed in the rear as well as with the proposed height. Commissioners responded that they do not have a problem with the office space over garage that looks like a garage. There have been cases where there are low roofs with no dormers. He pointed out this property has dormers and a 6-foot high knee wall. Additionally, he stated that it could be reduced from 6 feet to 4 feet. Commissioners stated that because the height of the structure is tied to the variance and is in contention with the commission, it may be best to continue the application and variances can be voted on once the comments are addressed further. He continued to say that if the variances were just addressing existing conditions and habitable space, then he feels the commission would be more inclined to vote in the applicant's favor. Commission agreed, the proposed carriage house should complement the size and massing of the primary structure. Commissioner Hartke stated that he is not opposed to the garage with second floor space in the rear. Commissioner Thiel stated that 616 Mohawk is a good example of a garage with a second floor that reads as a garage. Commissioner Foley recommended moving the gable to the north and south elevation rather than the alley side, leaving the pitch to face the alley side. He recommended then to add a dormer that faces the alley, which will pull the height back rather than making the tallest spaces on those elevations. With this change, the balcony can stack facing the alley side. Commissioner Dirks asked if there was anything inherently wrong about the garage for it to be considered for demolition. Commission requested for staff to provide previous materials for the upcoming hearing. Applicant has submitted revised drawings to revisit the design that was previously proposed during the November hearing with the gable end facing the alley side, the west elevation, in lieu of dormers on the west elevation. Applicant has also removed the porch balcony from the east elevation but has maintained the balcony on the west. At the February business meeting, Commission requested the applicant clarify the reason for the height change of the knee wall. Staff that verify the height of the primary structure at 862 Mohawk Street. Applicant provided photos of the primary structure at 862 Mohawk Street and the alleyscape behind the 862 Mohawk Street property, and provided specs for skylighting and proposed light fixtures. Applicant provided the knee wall height adjustment was to follow commissioner feedback to lower the overall height. And staff recommendations, staff recommends that the commission offers feedback and continue the application to allow applicant time to provide updated materials at a future hearing. The basis for the staff recommendation is somewhat consistent with CC 311612. Standards for new construction, C, D, F, and K, and the German Village Guidelines for new buildings, garages, and outbuildings, 1, 9, 11, and 13.
Thank you. Anything else to add?
I'm just gonna talk about what we've changed, and I think my client has some. We did, on this application, provided a little diagram showing the height of the house across the street. It was on the submitted drawings. And the height of the existing main residence is also on the submitted drawings on the same page that has the as-built. So you can see that. We also went through, you had mentioned some other carriage houses. So we had prepared the drawing that's on the screen. And these are all basically carriage houses within the same alley within a block or two that have been approved, we think fairly recently. So we just went ahead and I pulled the elevations off the submissions, and just to give you an idea of the scale of some of the other carriage houses that have been approved on this alley previously. We call it an alley, but there's actually, directly to the north of us is a single family home. Across the street is a single family home. And down the street, as you can see from the alleyscape, there are a lot of homes that actually face this alley. So it's one of those somewhat unique alleys in German Village where there are certainly homes, whether the lot was split or not, that face the alley, and then also homes either facing Mohawk or Fifth. We did reduce the size of the knee wall, and we did push back the front facade and articulate the west elevation in a way that, as you had suggested, was actually for 862 Mohawk, kind of took cues from that in terms of how that was articulated so that it did not appear to be a balcony. We've removed the balconies from the house side of the street and kind of scaled the whole structure back. Staff had asked about heights, but I think Morgan actually went out and measured. Yeah, we both have measured the facade of the existing house. So I think it's pretty darn close. So, but as you can see from the alleyscape, our proposed our proposed structure is right in line with kind of the average height for the alley as well.
And if you look at the two structures on the right, those were approved, they've not been built, but if they are built, they would be 100 feet north of our proposed structure, so really close by.
And I think that just speaks to kind of the unique character of this particular alleyscape and what's either been approved by you or what's already there on the alley, which I think from that sense gives us a little more latitude in terms of, what would feel appropriate in that alleyscape.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Can you clarify again? I don't understand when you say that they've been approved. This is 674, 78 Mohawk and 670, 672 Mohawk rear has been approved?
That's the addresses that were on the application.
And how does this apply to this property?
It's within, if you look on the site plan that's on that same page, there,
It's 100 feet to the north.
It's 100
on the
feet
opposite
from-
side of the alley.
some of the comments had to do with the, what else was in the alley, and was this kind of building appropriate for the alley? And we're just wanted to point out that somebody
Yeah.
felt these were appropriate,
We're
so,
proposing a 22.5 foot tall carriage house.
yeah.
100 feet down the road is two 30-foot tall carriage houses. So I don't think ours is unreasonable.
And so what are the characteristics of the houses associated with those carriage houses?
I don't think the scale's that much larger than what we have. I mean, ours is shorter than these,
Your carriage houses are shorter
Yeah.
than these.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do these other carriage houses, and those two don't look like carriage houses?
And they don't.
Oh, they
Yeah,
have
They
garages.
look like houses.
yeah.
So what is the scale of the carriage house that you're referring to in relation to the houses that those other carriage houses are associated with?
I mean, I would say that similar to ours, they're proportioned to the houses up front. I think they're the two on the right-hand side are about this, close to the same height as the existing one, if not a little bit taller, especially the 674, 678.
Yeah, so of course, my concern, as you know, is that the continued proliferation of carriage
Sure.
houses will exacerbate a negative trend that has already started. And then this one will be a further precedent that will be used for more and more and more, and the neighborhood will be filled with them, even though the neighborhood even though carriage houses associated with smaller houses was not characteristic of the historic character of the neighborhood.
I mean, what did you think when these two were presented, I guess?
I probably voted against them.
I was
think
just curious.
Those two are,
Yeah, and they're actually residences replacing two-car garages on the back of two lots, which are two-family units as it is. I voted against those two.
So they went from having 2 parking spaces to having no parking spaces when those were approved.
I can't remember what the,
It's,
yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I remember.
so
I
I
can remember
guess,
what it was.
I don't think carriage houses are a negative thing. I know you do, and I
in a
appreciate that.
neighborhood with
Yeah.
appropriate houses that used to have.
The
them. Of
compliment,
course
right,
not.
but everybody building a 2-story garage on the back of their 1-story house that's bigger than the house they've got, that is not the characteristics of the built environment of German Village.
So we're not building a 2-story, we're building a 1.5 story.
Okay, 1.5 story.
And I will say sometimes, and I tell this to my clients all the time, I think sometimes doing the carriage house rather than doing an addition on the original cottage is a more appropriate approach.
It's still square footage added, whether it's code or not, it's still square
Yeah.
footage added. I think we also had a conversation about, I believe somebody brought up that this was a contributing garage you're asking to be
Yeah.
demolished. And I think we need to have
Do you
some
want to-
good reason for demolishing it.
Well, first of all, the other thing, the lot's about 200 feet long. And from the front of the lot, you cannot see the current garage, and I mean, I haven't rendered it, but I don't even think you'd be able to see the carriage house, right? Between the proximity of the adjacent structures. And then, of course, the further off into the distance, the shorter objects appear, so we don't see it as that big of an issue. In terms of your other question, right? You know, age alone does not denote historical significance. You know, 50 years is often seen as a minimum threshold, but it's not the end all be all. Furthermore, none of the following criteria applies to this garage. It does not embody a distinct architectural style, which is, I don't know.
It's vernacular, yes.
It's just typical wood frame. It is not associated with any important cultural, political, or social events. And it's not identified with any historic figures of significance to the community, state, or nation. And yes, the garage is 54 years old, but it was built about 8 years after the formation of the German Village Historic District, which one can infer exists to protect brick cottages, vernaculars, foursquares, and other structures built from the 1840s to World War I, but most certainly not utilitarian wood frame garages constructed after the formation of the district. You know, in summary, this garage is in no way, shape, or form historically contributing within German Village.
So first of all, part of your definition applies to that building being declared in and of itself an historic structure. It is considered contributing to the historic district. And I believe Historic Preservation Office can tell us what the age is for a structure within our district to be considered contributing.
Okay, well, I disagree, but, okay.
Yeah, we're just telling you where we're at, so
I mean,
you
it's
have every right to disagree, my God.
it's a little bit of a moving target because time doesn't stand still. So to me, it's more about the merits of the architecture as opposed to the age of the actual structure. And whether we feel it's contributing and unique to German Village and, you know, like the concrete block garage, certainly they're a unique characteristic of the village and something that wants to be maintained. This, you know, this is a wood stud garage built in
So it doesn't count?
1960s.
So is contributing a sort of subjective
Sure,
concept, or is this a concept related to historic preservation that,
I mean, I think.
does the Department of Interior consider contributing, does that have a specific meaning or what? When,
It's a subjective, it's always subjective, of course. I mean, everything you do is subjective. It has to
The
be.
bar is much lower for contributing structure in a district than an
Yeah.
individual building.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's your evaluation. You know, you have to make that.
Krista, any thoughts? You're in.
I'm just thinking, I recently wrote a National Register District nomination where the SHPO expanded the period of significance to the 70s. So specifically so they could capture the garages as sort of tangible evidence of the evolution of the automobile's importance in the district. And they got moved into the 70s. So we were capturing buildings even less than, slightly less than 50 years old.
Yep. You know, perhaps the district can clarify this by including it in the guidelines. It's not in the guidelines right now, so.
Has there been a nomination update at all to the, I know there was an effort underway a couple of years back to do one. Did anything go through, do you know?
Of which one specifically?
The nomination for the National Register for the neighborhood.
I'm not sure, actually, I could look into more information about that, but I'm not clear on that. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, the way things work, it doesn't really matter if it's eligible, it's eligible. It doesn't matter whether it's listed or not.
And Columbus is 40 years to be considered contributing, and National is 50. So that's where we base our evaluation on for the structures this time.
Has there been, to the point of contributing, not contributing, has there been any documentation, investigation of the what's it called, the restoration that was done back in 65? Wood frame, is there a percentage of the structure that was replaced in 65?
I mean, the
Versus,
roof has certainly been replaced, the siding.
What are we talking about?
They're asking of anything on the garage.
Well, I think it was built in 1968, so I'm not sure the 65. And that may have been when they started to apply to build it.
Okay.
But I believe it was built in 68.
I mean, siding, roofing, paint, garage door, of course, have all been changed over the years. Whether they got approval for it or not, I don't you know,
So I'm looking at the application, there's a certificate from 65, 66. Looks like the garage was submitted in 66. Just looking for the facts and trying to find you a way to get to
sure.
over the hump, basically.
Yeah, it's like any garage of that era, most of the
Yep.
components, after 20 years or.
I think for the commission, it's kind of a two-stepper. Step one is I know early on we brought up the concept of, is it contributing or not? Is it okay for demolition or not? I don't remember ever coming to a finalization on that.
Yeah, no,
So I think for the commission, number one is there consensus on the commission or majority of the commission to be okay tearing down what is there, the demolition in the first place?
Well, I guess the question is it contributing? And then if it is, does it still have integrity?
So straw poll, on the perspective of, is it contributing, is it okay to be removed? Where do we stand?
So what's the city standard again for contributing?
40 years, so it's within that purview.
I mean, is it the city standard or in the guidelines?
It's the city code for 40 years for Columbus, it's 40 years,
Right.
yeah, and the national's 50, so ours is a little different.
And it's.
Yeah.
So it's more than 40 years old. Sounds like according to the city code, it's contributing.
No view?
Ditto.
No?
Yep.
It's contributing.
No, and there's
Contributing.
at least 3 to 4 out of 5 here.
The other question is, does it still have integrity?
That's the next question.
And that was my question, right?
And that goes to, of the framing there, the siding, the roofing there, the roof has been replaced, siding.
Roofing is always changed on a regular double decade thing. Is it structurally sound, et cetera? There are certain things that any building to maintain needs to have replacement.
So there's a,
I've seen some that do not retain
Right, my God, yeah.
integrity.
so there's a pole in the middle, okay, and that's been knocked, not over, but it's not, it was hit by the car, so it's not connected to the ground. And there's what's the big beam like this
The
called?
ridge beam.
The ridge beam? I'm not, maybe we get an expert, but, that's starting to, show some distress on the sides. So, yeah, I mean, if we want to, if you need some sort of expert opinion, we can do that, but, I know that's a big issue right now, is that center support is no longer supporting that beam. We're starting to see distress at the two sides.
There's also demolition by neglect, so be careful.
I'm sorry, what's that?
There is a definition of demolition by neglect, where you let it fall apart, so you can get rid of it.
They haven't been there so long.
Okay, not saying you have neglected it, it's just
Yeah.
been over time.
I'm just giving you overall.
So a structural report of
Yeah, okay.
So if you're gonna go down the route of saying construction and sound, again, we're trying to give you the venues here. If the frame has been replaced, foundation's been replaced, basically the material that's there is no longer what was built in 65, 66, then you can make the case of there's no historic fabric left on the building, in which case that may sway the commission. If it's a structural issue where there's a danger to the public, it's going to be falling down, that's a different line of approach, which would need a structural engineer's report to state that. So those are two options there.
But the structural engineer's report needs to also state what it would take to repair it
Right.
versus, it's beyond repair and must come down.
Yes.
In that case, you're probably going potentially to appeal for hardship, which would be a separate.
It's interesting, the first, and I travel a lot and people have been sick. But when we first started this whole process, there was never any mention about this. And it was just, talking about the actual structure, like the new structure itself. So it's interesting. It's almost as if there's forces to be that are looking for ways to prevent this from happening, which is a bit disconcerting, but.
Let me just clarify, we did in past meetings, apologies. I did bring up when the commission discussed demo at some point. There was the initial conversation about the demo. It was never finalized though from past hearings, but there was discussion about it.
The very first hearing, there was discussion about, is it contributing, not contributing? And one of the discussion points was investigation to identify what is contributing, what is left, and that was never followed through on. And we are here to discuss what's brought to the commission, so.
I mean, that would have been helpful to talk about 8 months ago, because it's a kind of wasting everyone's time and energy. We don't think this is something that should even be looked into to begin.
And like I said, it was discussed at the very first meeting.
So one more time, you pointed out there were,
So there's the historic fabric, the materials that are there. If the original beams, columns, siding, roofing is going to be replaced over the years. If the original material fabric is no longer there, then you can make the case that there's nothing of historic integrity left. If it's a structural issue of an imminent collapse, needs to be demolished, then we need to get basically the code action saying it must be taken down because it's a danger to the public. Or if it's structurally unsound, from an engineer's report, we need an engineer to state that, and then what would be the rough cost to replace it? Because maintaining a building is the owner's responsibility, but if it's financially unfeasible, typically that would be a hardship case. We would vote typically denying the first pass, it would come back on appeal under hardship.
So on those two Mohawk ones that you guys recently approved, I mean, you had stated there were garages that were torn down.
No, they're still there.
no,
No.
862 had, Mohawk had a garage that was torn down.
I mean, I just am curious what justification they used to get that torn down. I mean, I don't know if that was you, Morgan. It was,
I can't remember.
It may have been,
I just see, I've seen a lot of cases with very similar garages over the years where there's really honestly been no issue of demolishing these garages.
They may
So,
not have been contributing at the time.
I mean, it's
No,
pretty much,
862.
As time passes, buildings that were not contributing
Become-
become contributing.
No, this was approved,
The
like,
clock keeps
this
going.
was like,
this was like a year ago, okay? So what was the rationale to knock down this garage? Right there, the one in the middle.
that was built post, was not built with an old enough time frame to be considered a historic structure.
When was that garage built?
check and see.
I know it's the 70s for this garage.
I mean, that,
But that's older than 40 years.
Approved in 2020 or 2021. Apologies.
Say 80s.
Yeah, it is. That's the 80s.
That document said.
Did have a link for this earlier, so I apologize.
Well,
I'm sorry.
in any event, the issue isn't whether sometime, somewhere we goofed. The issue is whether we need to make the right decision here.
and I don't think, honestly, I don't think you goofed. I think there's been a lot of occasions where garages like this that you guys approved to be torn. Yeah, so it's a little difficult for my client to understand why in this particular case, he's not permitted to do so. That's the difficulty here for him. It's just, we see these other we see properties on the same alley within a year that you've approved two-story homes on, and then you're saying, well, his is too tall. You know, it's just,
So I don't
And that-
personally consider myself bound by decisions that were made over my objection by a majority of the commission.
There's also,
I get
the two
very-
structures to the right that are 100 feet from the north against, there's garages there right now. When were those garages built?
I
Because
keep
those
those
were
records
approved to
with
be
me.
torn down to build those structures. Where they go?
I can't tell you.
I think we'd have to do some research.
Okay, so what are the, so if you vote no, what are the options then?
But the commission votes no. You have three options, and more, give more detail about these. One is to come back on appeal. The other is mediation. And the third is to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So on his appeal with this board?
Yeah, you can come back to us on appeal. You can, typically, that'd be like the hardship kind of cases. You can go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to appeal.
That's what I'm more
They
familiar
gotta
with.
come to us first.
Yeah, I believe, so that one. would be
There's
the-
there's a step-by-step process. Yeah.
And Morgan has the full list of the
Yeah, it's
options.
spelled out in,
But you can't do.
oh, gosh, I've got it here somewhere.
Yeah, we would have to take a vote first to trigger the next
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm trying to get to a pragmatic solution, right? I mean, we talked about like, ideally, we probably build a square with a roof, porch, probably a single door. But no, we're trying to stay within the character of the neighborhood. We're trying to, work within the height restrictions, minimize the height. So I feel like I've made a lot of concessions on my end, right? And so I'm really looking for some sort of pragmatic solution here.
So Ned, you gave a suggestion to look at a carriage house that looks like a garage.
But I mean, anything like that involves taking this garage down.
Right.
Well, that's fine. Obviously, there were people on the board who may disagree with whether this building has good integrity or not and allow you to take it down. But then the question is, even if, once you're allowed to take it down, what's coming back in its place?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone back and forth between what you see there, and then at one time there was something where you made it look more like a garage, and quite honestly, I don't think I really care. Just want to get something going.
We haven't really, I mean, I'm just saying, can we add on to the top of this garage without tearing it down? Or do you consider that?
To me, if you could do that and still show the integrity of the original garage, what it looked like, et cetera, and got your additional space up there, whether it's by dormers or half or something like that, but we can still recognize that there's the original contributing structure.
Okay,
You got me.
okay, well, that's good.
It's like an addition sideways, but it's an addition up with all those other rules, so.
Okay,
Well, the garage is 16 feet tall, so can you take the peak higher?
I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
maybe we add behind it.
If your architect can provide a solution that gets you there, and I'm just speaking for one person, but
Sure.
I look at my own garage,
Mhm.
same issues,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
yeah. How do you do that? I think there is a way.
So in this appeal process, right, you do appeal, maybe you vote no again, then it goes where?
So if, to get to the second step, we have to vote, and there would be a no vote, which would trigger the next steps. And those steps would be Morgan needs to give you the direct, I don't want to give you information that's incorrect, but they end up in coming back to us on rehearing. There's a pathway to a mediation and as a pathway to the Board of Zoning.
And
And
what's the mediation?
Mediation, we bring in a third-party mediator to have
And when was the last time you did that?
I don't think I've ever had a mediation for my entire.
I have.
It's pursuant to city ordinance, chapter 3116.10, A, B, and C.
But I mean, the complexity to me with that is that we have the vote on the design, but you don't actually vote on the variances, it's a recommendation. So can you mediate the recommendation? I don't know that, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And as I discussed with him, we could get the variances.
Yeah,
I'm not saying but let's say we could get the variances with you guys recommending no. That still doesn't help him to be able to get the building approved by you.
Right, the citation I supplied is the procedure following denial of a certificate.
Make it appropriate. So the variances, I don't think, that's not an appeal process. Is that right? I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
So technically, you could go to zoning to get a variance, you could go without coming to us first. They're probably gonna say, hey, you need to go to the commission. They need us to recommend or not recommend,
Right,
and they've ruled different than us.
yeah.
We've
I've
not
had it,
recommended and
yeah,
they've approved
Not
it.
that often,
They
but,
don't have to, it's a recommendation, they
So-
don't have to follow it.
but they still have to come back with the building, so I
Yeah.
still think you have to mediate the building, right? But then I think in that case, we would still need you to make a recommendation on the variances. I don't know if this, I mean,
Regarding lot coverage and setbacks and stuff like that?
I mean, are we allowed to go and, I don't know, is the city gonna say, I need a recommendation from German Village either way before I'll let you go to city council? Or can we just say to them, you know what I'm saying? I don't know how that works.
I think my understanding of it is they want us to make a recommend or not
I think
recommend
so too.
decision
Yeah,
before they will make a
Right.
decision.
so,
They're not bound by our recommendation.
so we could have you
Yeah.
vote on the recommendation,
Yeah, we could
Let's say-
recommend it and they could say no, we could say no recommendation and they could say yes.
and then we could still come back to you if we can come up with another design and have you vote on the recommendation again.
Well, the recommendations for zoning variances.
Yeah. Let's say you guys say no, and then we go to city staff and they said, oh, forget it, you need to go back before German Village. I mean, that's the process, I assume. With revised drawings.
Yeah, I don't want
I don't,
to get lost in the weeds of
yeah,
making sure without
yeah.
being.
I just don't want to lead him down a path where he can't, there's no solution, is what I'm concerned.
And when it comes to variances, your first four, those are existing conditions, I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
So those four, we would not have any party against them. The last two are driven by design decisions.
sure,
So it's hard for us to recommend a variance based on a design which may or may not be what
you
goes
would,
forward.
yes.
So that's the struggle there.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure we're letting you know that we're not opposed to all six of these.
Could we, and tell me if you don't, could we have you vote on the various variances separately?
We could break them into the first four into one, which are the existing conditions, and then we can have the last two separate.
Is that okay with you?
I'm not sure what that gets you, though.
Yeah, I think that'd be worth doing.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say we're not gonna come back with a totally
Yeah.
revised, I don't know, we're gonna have to have.
Yeah.
this
I'm
decide.
just not sure what it's going to get you to get the existing ones locked in,
Brings you into compliance.
get you into compliance, but
I would just say 4 to 2 is better than 0 to 6, you know? That's what I would
That's
say.
the four guaranteed.
Yeah.
we can vote on this. That's not a problem. I just want to
They're,
make
they're
sure
absolutely guaranteed. Nobody's,
Okay,
we're not gonna vote against those.
okay,
we're on the record saying that, so.
Yeah.
okay. What do you wanna do? Just table.
I just want to let you know, it's not necessarily unanimous. I'm okay with the carriage house in this situation. So one vote on the commission, but the majority needs to be one of the votes. So there's,
You know, I don't like to play, excuse me. Got a cough. I don't like playing games, and I feel like this is, the more we drag it on, the more we play games. I think this is very reasonable. I don't want to waste everyone's time. I don't think about it. I go where it goes. I mean, I think we've made a tremendous amount of compromises. I think based on what you've seen in the past, it's not a sore thumb. So, I mean, I just hope that pragmatic thinking prevails, that's all.
Images of the existing house associated with this garage, this carriage house.
We did, actually, we did not, we were using, I think, Google, you last time. Would you like me to pull that up? Commissioner Pearson?
Yeah, because when I pull it up, it's just behind a van.
Yeah, and I want to make sure you understand that I'm not against carriage houses. I'm not against this carriage house. It looks like a nice carriage house. My concern is the proliferation of carriage houses associated with the types of houses that would not historically have had a carriage house associated with them. And every one we approve is an additional step toward carriage houses throughout the neighborhood that, in a way that detracts from the historic character of the neighborhood.
You know, when you say that, to me, it sounds like you're more concerned with your personal opinion and less
Well,
with the
actually,
property
I'm
owner's
concerned
taxes.
the-
So it's
The
It's hard to hear.
language in the city code that I'm supposed to follow that says that I'm supposed to, let's see, I had it here a moment ago. To consider the architectural characteristics typical of the structures in the district. And the architecture character of the structures in the district did not typically have a carriage house associated with this size of a house.
okay.
So to move this forward, I think there are a couple potential courses you want us to take. There was the question about the variances being split versus not. I think I heard the gentleman state wanted to have just a straight vote. How do you want us to proceed right now?
You know, I think, you know, again, just let's vote. I mean, hey, it's reasonable. I'm not sure what is going on. I don't know. Let's just put the vote.
Before voting, we want to recommend splitting them with the variances, since that might have a different outcome than the design, and voting on that. That would be a good suggestion for the commission. Up to you.
So
Just a suggestion.
comfortable voting on the variances without having.
Sure. I don't have any objection.
Okay.
Well, except for the number 5-1,
Yeah.
the height might change if
Yeah.
you change the design or do an addition.
Especially-
It's not gonna go higher, I'll tell you that much. So it's only gonna go, it's not gonna go higher.
I mean, ultimately, you have the control over the height, because you're not gonna give the COA if we don't want something you like, so.
I'm not comfortable with voting on ones that are responsive to the design. I'm comfortable with voting for the ones that are responsive to the existing conditions.
So would there be a motion to split the application into three? One vote for the variance, the first four variances that are existing, one for the last two variances requested, and then one for the design.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And clarification of the motion, that they will be A, B, and C. A being the existing variances, B being the last two variances, and C being the design. I have a second. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Ayes have it. Is there a motion on A, the four existing variances?
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend those first four variances to sections well, the first four that should cover it.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Is there a motion on part B?
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend the last two variances to sections 3332.38G and 3332.38H.
second,
Any questions on the motion?
That discussion, yes, this is not typically what we do. We usually do not pass variance or zoning that is conditional on the design. And we're starting, again, going down a slippery slope that this will again set a precedence that somebody may bring to us as, hey, what are you doing?
Any other questions or clarifications on the motion? All those in favor? Against?
Aye.
Declined? And portion C, which is the architecture as submitted.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the application for the architectural design as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any question on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against?
Aye.
Aye.
Against has it. Motion is denied.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
This is-
And if you do want to go to appeal,
I'll talk to Morgan.
Yeah, we'll follow.
Figure it out. Thank you.
moving ahead to item number 2, GV-23-01-013, 747 City Park Avenue. And if you'd all raise your right hands. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You do? Yes.
Yes.
And please state your name for the record.
Kyle Crane, with Gunzelman Architecture.
Thank you.
Randy James.
Micah James, property.
Thank you.
The proposed work description, addition of a shed dormer on the south elevation near the front of main cottage structure. Proposed dormer will match the existing dormer materials, existing dormer and addition approved in 1968. It's board and batten siding painted to match existing, double hung 1/1 windows from the approved list, and roof gutters and fascia to match existing. Proposing a new 2-story carriage house at the rear of the property along Pearl Alley. 2 parking spaces, 1,040 square feet of living space, 370 on the first floor and 670 on the second floor. Height of the carriage house to be 24 feet. 2 dormers on the north, south and north roof located near the west elevation fronting Pearl. Dormers to be horizontal siding, Denver cement. Vertical board and batten siding. Asphalt shingle roof with 4 skylights on the north elevation. New fixed windows on the east, west, and south elevation. And gas lantern light fixtures. Staff analysis. Application was previously reviewed as a conceptual application. The following is taken from the unapproved January 4, now approved. January 4th, 2023 German Village Commission hearing minutes. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Dirks asked for the reasoning of the extension past the closet with the updated drawings. Applicant responded stating they pushed the dormer back when needed to extend it to this length due to the built-out closet and bathroom. Commissioners indicated support for the addition of the dormer on the principal structure as proposed in the most recent submission due to the adjustment of the dormer size, pushing it back further on the main roof and the main roof having asphalt shingles. Some commissioners indicated concern with the proposed contemporary window facing Pearl Street on the carriage house design and say that the window should speak to and respect other window appearances on the same street. Commissioner Ferriel and Thiel were concerned over the size of the ancillary dwelling unit and its massing compared to the primary cottage house. Height is 20 feet, as cottage-style homes would not have historically had carriage houses. Commissioners stated the building can be more contemporary in nature but would need to be modified to speak towards the existing structure and streetscape. Possibility of splitting the lot building an ADU as a primary dwelling unit for the property. When the newly split lot was discussed, commissioners commented that if this were proposed, the unit would need to look like a house and the attached garage would not be allowable. Additionally, a lot split might complicate the design more since it would be a loss of parking for the property, adding more parking to the street for 2 properties. Concerns were discussed with the proposed overhang of 1 feet 8 inches, since the overhang must remain a specific distance from the lot line as defined in the building code, typically 3 feet. Staff and commissioners recommend the applicant contact building and zoning to investigate the variances that would be needed for the overall project. Commissioners noted that double overhead garage doors are not typically approved for a 2-car garage per the guidelines. 2 separate garage doors are typically required unless the turning radius in the alley is insufficient. Commissioners supported and encouraged provided different options for them to review for the west elevation design, more detail on material and overhang. Commissioner Thiel states that what is on the lot, including main house and addition, is an ensemble of buildings that need to be respected, and the original historic structure takes precedence. The current design is default in comparison to the primary structure, its relationship to the alley is secondary, and the alleyway is not a justification for the design when compared to original structure. Applicant has provided 3 new design options for the alleyscape elevation for the commission to review. At the February business meeting, the commission requested product information for the fiber cement cut sheets for the light skylight, railing, and windows, light fixture specs if applicable, and product information for the garage doors. Commission also asked for clarification on drawings DD6A, version 1 windows, and asked what applicants determine what variants would be needed according to BZS. The commission made note of potential issues with the carriage house unit having both a kitchen and a bathroom, as typically the commission only supports one of these features in a carriage house. Applicant has provided product information for the railing, fiber cement board, garage doors, windows from the approved list, and skylights. Fiber cement board will be hardy smooth finish. The garage door spec sheet mentions decorative hardware, and we don't typically approve decorative hardware. Windows are Pella and Pervia from the approved windows list. Skylight is a deluxe skylight. Applicant has also amended drawing DD6A and has provided a preliminary list of variances associated with the project that are not a part of the application at this time. A separate application will be needed. Application clarified that glass lanterns are no longer a part of the proposed project, and commission indicated support for the proposed dormer on the main property. Staff recommendation, staff recommends the commission offers feedback and continue the application to allow for additional materials and designs that are more in line with the German Village guidelines and city code. The basis for the staff recommendation is CC 311612, standards for new construction, C, D, F, and K, and German Village guidelines, new buildings, garages, and outbuildings, 1, 9, 11, 13.
Anything else to add?
I'll just quickly run through a couple of the items that we revised from last meeting. I think we ended on a positive note on the dormer, so there weren't any changes that we made for that, even though we did not vote on it last time. In terms of the carriage house, a couple of items that we changed, we reduced the width of the carriage house by a foot. It is now it's not wider than the existing residence in the front. It's the same width. By reducing it a foot, we've also eliminated the issue with the overhang being too close to the property line that was brought up last time, so that won't be an issue anymore. And also by doing that, we were able to lower the overall height of the carriage house by a foot as well, to down to 23 feet. As you said, we have a couple options on the windows. I think last time we talked about providing a couple. There was discussion whether it should, in terms of the streetscape along Pearl, there were a couple different types of window configurations that we would like to take a look at and would like your opinion on. We revised the garage doors from one larger garage door to two 8-foot wood garage doors. And then, we provided the information on windows, skylights, garage doors, siding, and variances. So,
All right, questions, comments from the commission? We'll note that there is no garage on the property currently, so that discussion point from previous application does not apply here.
And the new carriage house is still taller than the primary structure.
yes, it is less tall than the last two meetings. We were creeping it down. But yes, it is a little taller still.
Well, it went from, what was it, 28 feet?
28.
Now 23 feet, so I think that's been a large concession that we've made. And yes, it may be taller, but the house overall is larger. The main house overall is not just height, but width and length. Our main home is quite large, actually, when you look at the, you look at it overhead.
So we really tried to work with the
Massing.
massing as well as the visuals to.
Just curious, what's the footprint of this new structure and the footprint of the house? Square footage was.
I don't have the square footage.
Okay,
I've got the dimensions.
just curious. It's a garage in the front and a residence in the back.
Looks like the garage is roughly 800,
Yeah,
give or take.
footprint.
Primary looks like it's about 16 3/4 by 78, give or take.
It's a little, there's a little bump out on that as well.
1,300 ballpark. I heard mention of addressing the encroachment on the side yard property.
Yeah.
Plan still showing 2'6".
2 foot is the overhang cannot be closer than 2 feet to the property line.
I guess one of the things that applicant asked for is feedback on the window orientations of the options provided.
The third one is what we originally presented with the 2 garage doors for reference that you guys have seen before. And then the first one, we also have 3 elevations with the adjacent houses on Pearl later on in the set, but a few of the few of the adjacent structures have individual windows spaced out, which is more like the first one. And then there's also a house with two windows sort of ganged together in the center, and it's more like the second option.
Any comments on the window configurations?
So all three of them look more like windows on a house than a garage. But it's carriages. It's a house, garage included. Small house.
What are the heights of the garage doors?
8 feet, or 8 by 8.
So it is the intent of this project to have a fully standalone dwelling unit in the back.
With this in particular, I think one of the previous meetings, I think it was the gentleman, Mr. Ferriel, you mentioned, that we should call this a dwelling unit. So we went back and, actually looked up what is a dwelling unit, and it's an operational, home. So we,
Got a kitchen and a bathroom, and a living room and a bedroom.
yeah, so, based on your feedback, it's a dwelling unit. So, we took that into account as we were kind of thinking through this. So we do have aging parents, and we wanted to have an opportunity to have a place where they could stay and, not have to, knock on the door every time they needed to, fry an egg or go to the bathroom or something like that. So,
So we have a list of the variances that are going to be required.
I do, yes, submitted that as well. Do you want me to read them or?
We have them.
Okay.
Just took me a second.
Oh, that's in the application. My bad.
I can read, or Nicole can read them out. Yeah, sure. I can't see it like as well. Or I can,
Yeah, you could.
I'll read them out just for record. Of course, this is not part of the application, but was asked by the commission just to provide for reference. So variances would be needed and an additional application of 3332037 R2F residential district to permit 2 detached dwelling units on the same parcel consisting of the existing single-family dwelling fronting City Park Avenue and proposed detached carriage house with 1 dwelling unit and 2 parking spaces, both as depicted on the site plan. 331249, minimum number of parking spaces required to reduce parking for 2 dwelling units from 4 to 2. 333205, area district lot width requirements to reduce the lot width from 50 feet to 26 feet. 333214 R2F, area district requirements to reduce lot area from 6,000 square feet required for a principal building to 4,875 square feet lot area existing, and to reduce lot area to 2,028 square feet pursuant to section 333218C existing. Section 333219 fronting to permit the carriage house to not front on a public street, South Pearl Street. 333226, minimum side yard permitted to reduce the north side yard of the carriage house from 3 feet to 2.5 feet, and to reduce the north side yard of the existing single-family dwelling from 3 to 1.4 feet, existing side yard. 333227, rear yard to reduce rear yard from 25% of lot area behind each dwelling to 25% rear yard for the existing house, 747 City Park Avenue, from 25% to 0% for the carriage house to permit the rear yards as depicted on the site plan.
Were the neighbors notified?
The neighbor's been notified of the variance requirements.
We have not submitted to the city zoning planning staff yet. Sort of dependent on whether this was going to be likely to be approved or not. We have a zoning consultant, and it was his who put this together, and it was his recommendation to, understanding that we might need to come back for once the
And
variance
the
is.
reason I'm asking that is I think if the neighbors had been aware of the additional parking burden you're going to create for them, there'd be several of them here.
Wait, how are we creating a burden to the neighbors with parking?
That's up to them to decide. I'm not gonna argue with you.
We
Wait.
currently have, wait, I don't understand that.
Well, from a zoning perspective, we would be required now to have 4 parking spaces rather than the 2 as a single family house. I would say building this carriage house doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna go buy 2 more cars, to
Not
be able to
now.
park it.
Yeah,
But
the building's gonna be there for a long time if it gets approved.
But did,
Probably long after you no longer live there.
but didn't
other-
zoning just come to the last meeting and say that they're redoing all of those? I mean, we were here in the last meeting, he sat here and talked about how they're revising some
Not
of
in
those.
place yet.
It's not in place yet, but we also don't know the future, so
No,
You're
that's
right.
true, but what
We
what
won't
I'm
maybe-
saying is, your neighbors have the right to
to know.
voice
So we
their
should let them
opinion,
know.
come to this meeting and voice their opinion on what you're requesting.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when, once we sort of talk about the design and your opinions on that, that will be part of the process when we go through with the city, just like your recommendation will be. We're required to post signs and notify neighbors, and they'll have opportunities to voice their opinions through the zoning council variance process as well. So that's all required, and that will all happen.
Of course, and I don't personally feel comfortable making a recommendation when neighbors haven't had the opportunity to tell me what they think. I'm recommending it without the information I might need to make a recommendation. And I'm always nervous in any setting where, gosh, I remember when neighbors of mine in a different city, a bank, or no, a restaurant, wanted to build a 2-story addition above the restaurant. And the representation was that they were going to use the 2nd and 3rd story for housing for their workers and not for wedding receptions or parties. And we said, well, I believe you, but you might not own this building forever. And some subsequent owner may choose to use it for those events. So imagine having a wedding reception towering over your back porch. So I'm always nervous about making decisions based on what current owners plan to do, because the current owners won't be the same owners forever.
Sure. And on past applications, just to kind of take his example and put it into your perspective. Full-on accessory dwelling unit can become rental. And that, so while you may not have 4 cars,
Yeah.
the next owner may decide to rent that out, and now all of a sudden there's going to be 4 cars. So in other applications, they have had the sink in the bathroom or the kitchen and not both, which minimizes the rental. We're not against rentals. It's just, we got to look at everything laid before us on what the code requirements are. And as you see, the code's changing. Potentially, we don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
So we can't make a ruling with that in mind. We got to rule what we have in front of us today.
With the, getting the neighbors' input, is that just,
Do we go talk to them or you
send
send them?
letters
You have to
out,
send them notifications.
send them a notification?
Everyone within a certain perimeter of your property, they can't promote that.
Just in the German village?
Dave, yeah, Dave.
Or
Yeah,
because we look, because
it's like
on
everybody
rural-
within 100 feet of your property edge or
Okay.
200 feet, or I forget what it is, but there is,
Yeah, there's.
Okay.
you have to send them by mail
I know,
notification.
3,
That's all.
4 of them are. I guess.
And I think, was it recommended that the variance would have to come back as a separate application? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Since this was not previously submitted when this application was submitted, the first.
so, I mean, we understand we'll have to come back so we can notify neighbors, even if it's, yeah, we'll notify neighbors when we come back for the variances. But we'd still like to talk about the design and any questions you may have so that, if a vote is appropriate at this time, or if there's other adjustments needed, that we sort of have that information.
So comments on the architecture.
Everything I said before is still valid. too tall. And Bruce and I have had this discussion last time about the ensemble. I still think the property is assembly and an ensemble, and whatever you add to it needs to respect the original structure, so. They go part.
And I don't believe that these carriage house sort of dwelling unit structures are appropriate to a house of this stature in this historic district.
And from previous conversations, I'm so concerned about the integrity of what was the original concept of what we were preserving back in sixties and seventies when this commission, and everything was set up, and how much we've deviated from that and how much we have overbuilt inappropriate structures that it's not the same thing. But I'm not willing to let it go.
I think, yeah, and I think you guys made that clear last time, and we respect that opinion. I know last time there was some requests for very specific feedback on things, and to the point where you guys asked, like, hey, can we get a couple options on the windows? Can we see materials? You know, like, let's get some tidy up these.
And I made the point for the windows,
So,
just in case the other commissioners approve it, at least maybe I got good windows.
well, yeah, I mean, do you want to comment?
Yeah, we'd
that's-
love to.
that's what we were-
And that's why we did, that's why we had
Yeah.
our architect work on these, so we could
Yeah.
get your opinions, and we gave you 3 options. And we'd love to hear some feedback on that specific thing you asked us for.
My feedback is my opinion, the first option,
Yeah.
with the 3 windows is the
Yeah.
most appropriate.
I agree.
It speaks to keeping the facade from feeling vertical,
Mhm.
and vertical is the main issue.
Okay, thank you.
I agree.
I agree as well on the first option.
So this one that's up on the screen right now
Yes.
seems to be the favored.
If I was wanting it to look more like a garage, I'd have windows like that, but only one of them.
No, that's true.
Well, the second option then
Is maybe a little closer
is a
to,
little closer to that.
Well, except for the verticality.
Yeah.
sure.
But what you're saying is you want a single center window, but of the scale of
Yeah.
the center window of the
Like the 3, except just the one in the middle. Or smaller.
Well, there was a comment made last time about actually enlarging the,
Yeah, we did, yeah.
The kind of window.
so now we're getting,
garage, Not the kind of window that would be in a house.
Sort of conflicting
And
feedback.
that's, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yep.
So, I mean, but it sounds like of the ones we presented,
this is
this one's the,
at least 3 of
this one's the,
5. Yeah. And then the garage doors was another one you guys had mentioned, instead of 1, to do the 2, and, it provided the materials, some,
I think the two helps over the 1.
yeah, I do too, actually, thank you.
I did have one question on the skylights. There's no details in there about the height from the roof line to perpendicular to the top of the skylight. The application does have options for curb mounted versus deck mounted. Is there thought about that? Typically, we're looking for the low profile skylights, so they're not kind of sticking up off the roof.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
We like that too.
Yeah, that's, I think, why these are chosen, that they have that option.
Yeah.
We can definitely do that.
So you narrowed it, and have 2 8-foot, 2-inch garage doors. So if I were you, I'd be nervous about an 8-foot, 2-inch garage door, depending on the turning radius into the garage. That's
Yeah, that's
a
why.
really narrow garage door.
Yep, and that's why it's
There
set
are a lot of
back.
cars that won't easily get into it.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last time. We don't have one of those fancy cars that you do that you can just press and have the window, like the side view mirror come in, but Randy just sticks his hand out and brings the side view mirror in. So yeah, we do that currently on our home. Because we also have two very small, it's about the same size, so.
And I'm aware of this because I've got 9-foot garage doors and then not much of a turning radius, so I'm partially blind in my right eye. So I get out and go fold that darn window or mirror in and then get back in the car and pull in because I'm tired of replacing
I mean,
mirrors.
I guess at the end of the day, like, you know, sort of a push-pull exercise, like we're doing everything we can to accommodate the requests for, let's bring the house in a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
we
just-
gotta bring our garage doors
Yeah,
in.
and that makes sense to me. I'm just looking at it and thinking,
At some point, we're gonna.
and push might come to shove, wider might have been better.
So
Yeah.
if-
Wait, can I call a timeout real quick? It's like, we've just in this catch-22, like, if you're saying,
It's,
hey, narrow the house, but then now this meeting, you're saying, you know what?
well, they said
You should-
so I
you
should
should-
say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we couldn't get 2 9-foot doors. We don't have enough width for
Yeah,
that. So
yeah, no, you
it's
don't.
either the single garage doors we previously
Well,
had or
if-
2 8-foot.
if the new building got narrower so that you wouldn't have that one side yard variance, and then that would reduce your ridge height down to no higher than the original house, would that make it more palatable to have the one garage door?
Even, you mean narrower than what we presented
Right,
today?
so that you
even
can't
more
have
narrow?
2 doors, you have to have the one.
So
You don't
We can't go
are you
any
asking me
We,
Or-
whether, if the
Well,
building got,
you'll go against it no matter
shorter.
what.
no, if it got shorter down
Yeah,
to some level, and we still required a double door?
no, still just have a single door at
Single
that
door,
point.
yeah, I
because
mean,
it would be-
the massing and the height to me is more overriding than a single or double door.
Yeah.
and we can't, like, this is as narrow as we can go with 2 parking spaces,
That's
2
right.
car garage.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Even with like one door, like you
Yeah.
can't get two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
far.
yeah,
And the width you potentially restrict, you're gonna be getting.
You would just have a single
Two.
car garage with an oversized
Yeah.
door.
It's a really big door, yeah.
yeah.
And I guess if we did that, we'd have
One
Parking
space
variance.
instead
we'd
of
have more,
parking
it
variances.
would cause other problems. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to do everything we can to take the feedback you guys provide during each session and make the updates, you know, at some point.
Can I ask, how many 4 votes do we get would we need
Any.
of the 5?
The 5.
Just so that we
Okay.
sort of have an idea.
Yeah, so you're asking for zoning variances based on this design, not existing conditions, okay? Parking be one of those. As you just saw in the previous one, we didn't approve the zoning variances that were design contingent, which is the same thing here. And we haven't had any input from the adjacent property owners on the zoning. So my recommendation is you go forward another cycle and get all those property owners on board. Or at least not objecting,
Notified.
notified, so they have a voice and opportunity.
Okay.
I know that's not what you want to hear, but
Can we vote on the dormer? No zoning variances required.
Main house.
I have
Go.
a question.
Oh, yeah,
I have a
let's-
yeah,
question
we didn't talk about them.
on the main house dormer.
Oh, yeah.
Because the guidelines say that dormers, when you add dormers, they were supposed to be kept small and they should not exceed, like the sum total of the
Mhm.
dormer should not exceed half of the roof length.
Mhm.
And so it appears that these exceed that, but I don't have all the dimensions provided.
Yeah, and I apologize, I know we talked about this at last meeting, I'm not sure, maybe you weren't there. We sort of gave our, the reasons why we were asking for the dormer. We provided a floor plan of that front bedroom. There's head height issues related to, sort of code requirements on head heights of the alley, and there's a photo that shows the door is not, you can't even get a regular sized door, it's like cut down. And that we, from the first meeting to the second meeting, this is the third meeting, we pulled the dormer back farther away from the front and pulled it to just so that you can walk down that hallway without hitting your head and turn into the bedroom. We sort of, I think we went through all of these items at the last meeting, and I think for the most part, I don't want to speak for the commission, but we all seem to sort of be on the same page there. I thought so.
And I think that's what you read too.
Yeah.
We made a statement last meeting that we were good with what was there. We didn't split the application last time
Yes.
at the request, but we all were,
Good with the length of
Yeah.
the terms. Okay.
you don't have to be, but the rest of us.
You want to put this in A and B then?
Yeah, I mean, we may
Yeah,
as well just
well,
get it.
get the dormer
Okay, so
out of the package.
Chairman, I move that we split this into A and B, A being the additional work at the main residence, and the B being the ancillary structure in the back.
And sorry, one more question. If are we able to still table B, or we're
Oh,
not
yeah.
voting on B?
Well, that's why
right
that's why we're
We're
doing.
voting to split, and then we're gonna vote on first and vote on the second.
But we don't want to, if
We'll
we don't
table
want to
instead.
vote, okay, we vote to table.
And
Okay,
vote the table, yeah, to continue.
is that okay?
Yeah, let's do that. I have a few other questions after that's done, but we can
Sure.
deal with that.
We'll take the vote to get them split, and we'll take the vote to get the first one out of the way,
Okay.
and then we can talk more and.
Okay.
All right. So you have a motion,
Second,
a second, any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Is there a motion on A?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve A as submitted.
second,
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. You guys had a couple of questions on B?
I do. Do you guys have any additional feedback or comments on the materials? So we provided windows, siding, railing, garage door, everything's from, well, at least the windows and the garage door from approved list.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, from the recommended list. What?
Looking at this as being basically another dwelling unit on here, if it wasn't, and it was just a garage, I would say your siding, use of siding is probably architecturally too complex for a simple ancillary building.
The vertical. and
Yeah,
horizontal.
yeah, but I'm just gonna leave it at that
That
because,
was what we.
yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because it's not just a garage.
I've got no problem with windows on the approved list. The garage door, we've seen that, Clopay Canyon Bridge before. We've seen good results with that. Got no problem there. Skylights, again, low profiles, keeping those down. Would like to have a dimension on those at the final application, just so we have that in the record. Yeah.
And I think the railing was the last thing that you guys had asked for.
And that's in there, and it's on the rear, the yard.
Yard.
portion.
That's, yeah, facing the main.
Any questions on the materials? None? Any other questions?
Another question is, so I understand what is being said about informing the neighbors. Is there anything else that we should be considering so that, it'd be nice if we could come to the next meeting and kind of have like sort of all of our I's dotted and T's crossed so that we don't get like another, and I'm not suggesting, you guys holding out on them, I'm just saying like, what else? Like, let us know, like, what else do we need to bring to the table during the next meeting so that we can have some.
Yeah, or possibly a straw poll on who's feeling what, so that we can sort of, I don't know if that's allowed to ask, but I think we have.
I'd feel better if it was closer to the height of the primary structure. I know you had mentioned you wanted to mirror what was in your primary structure, what's on this garage. So would you be willing to mirror the height of the knee wall?
It's already very low.
It's at 4, but your existing
Yeah.
one's at 3.4. I don't know what
If
that would do
if
to,
that makes a, yeah.
I don't know how
Those
far down
8
it
inches,
goes.
yeah, we could look at that for sure.
From a massing perspective, if you read through the guidelines in the code, it states height of structure compared to adjacents, which we've already talked about ad nauseum, and the height of structure to the primary. Having the 1.5-story cottage, it's always a struggle of what's the pitch versus the pitch. And right now, we're about 3 feet different. We're at 23, the primary is at 20, I think,
When,
so it's a 3-foot difference. The closer we can get to that 20 or below makes it easier for the commission to vote in favor. So that's going to be one of the big pieces for the commission to approve is the height and the massing.
Okay.
Question, is height and massing like all one, or does it just say massing
Oh, massing is footprint,
footprint?
width versus height.
Volume.
It's volume.
Okay, so volume of the main house compared to the ancillary dwelling.
And that's my issue with it. I think the architecture's fine.
Okay.
It's the size that,
So, and just to be really, really specific, we're not talking, or the feedback that you're providing us right now is not about the depth and the width. It's strictly the height. So you're strictly saying, if we can bring the height down, there's more comfort there. I just want to be real specific. So like, if we get
given
bigger
the
facts.
size of it, the height makes it look overwhelming compared to the
Height, okay.
original structure.
Question, next question, just as we're thinking about this, and I'm not trying to drag this out, but again, I want to be as specific as we can. You can't actually, from the street side, like, on the
This was
city
mentioned
park,
last
we talked about this last time, you can't actually see it. Like, the homes are so close together. You'd never, within an eyesight, look at both of them at the same time and go, that one looks higher than the other. You just never would. It's impossible to do unless you had a drone or you were, flying within a
Walking
dream
through
or something.
outside.
You just never would. However, if we bring this down even more from Pearl Alley, now we're going to have a problem that it's going to look subservient to the other structures on Pearl. So if we're looking at this right now, it fits the rhythm of what's on Pearl Alley. If we keep getting lower, now it's not going to fit the rhythm of what's on Pearl Alley. And I know you guys gave us feedback last time. It's really important that we fit the rhythm of what's on the street. So yes, it's a little taller than the primary unit, but it fits the rhythm of what's on Pearl Alley now. But now if we go high, high, low, high, it's going to look funny.
And I'll give my 2 cents. I'm okay with what's shown personally,
Okay.
from the height perspective, understanding the nuances of this specific site.
Okay.
Having a garage, this is a carriage house, having carriage house garage that is subservient to the adjacent structures is appropriate.
Okay.
Having it be the scale of a principal structure is what we try to avoid in generally speaking. So if you were putting a new primary structure there, like a lot split primary structure,
yeah,
then having the scale, the massing, the height as high or taller than the adjacent primary structures, that becomes more appropriate. So because it's a garage, it naturally wants to be subservient.
residents.
I'm okay with what's being shown from that height perspective. My statement of if you can get the height down, that just makes it easier for others to get on board.
Yeah, the guidelines ask that you design it shorter than the original house. That's number one. Number two, as far as massing goes and everything, if you were asking for just a 1-story, 2-car garage on here, we wouldn't tell you to make it taller to match the other buildings around it.
Okay. I guess what I was trying to get at is like, I didn't want to come back and then have it like, we make some concessions, we bring it down if we can, and then look at it again and go, well, now it looks kind of funny on the alley. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to sort of cross that now so that we don't have a different issue.
You can't break it down enough for me, so just give you a heads up.
Understood. Yeah.
Just give you a heads up.
Storage,
It looked
two-car
like a garage.
would be fine.
Yeah.
It looked like a garage and had a small living space with a half bath or maybe even a full bath, but not without a kitchen. It clearly wasn't a separate apartment, but it wouldn't be disturbing to me if it looked like a garage. And there are garages around that have living spaces above them for visiting relatives or whatnot.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not hard for me to imagine my garage with a living space up there. I have no plans to do that. But, you know, there's a 220 line to it. I could probably put something in there. No plumbing.
If there were just one window, would you feel more comfortable with it?
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
If it was smaller,
If the window was
if
smaller?
the structure was smaller.
Yeah.
Not the
Any questions? I'll just state that one of the heartaches we always have is parking variance being driven by the architecture decision to have kitchen and toilet. Previous applications don't have the two, just the one, which means no parking variance, which means it sails through.
Sure.
So that's going to be a discussion point at the next hearing with variance information and speakers.
I would say it doesn't always sail through.
Not always.
True. I think that's kind of a,
Does it make a difference that there's no like permanent parking on City Park? Like it's anyone can park on that street and anyone can park on Pearl?
it's gonna be, depends on what your neighbors perceive.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. I can't answer it.
Okay,
Like I said, I think your neighbors need to have a voice.
yes, definitely. We just didn't.
Nobody may have a problem, they may not, you
If
know.
your neighbors all around you had two-car garages, but I can tell from
Yeah.
Pearl that they don't.
Well, those are
So-
split lots.
So we need to take a vote to continue this application to the next hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
We got a second, any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, continue.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your.
Thank you.
How many votes would we have needed though? It's just, I don't think we.
Yeah, we
Vote
didn't.
you need?
If there were five.
There's five
Four,
against three.
Three.
Majority.
Okay.
6 here. So 5, it must be passed, right?
Yeah, correct. All right, moving on to item number 3, GB-23-02-010, 751 South Lozelle. If you both please raise your right hands. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name, sir.
My name's Gary Alexander. I'm the architect.
Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Stavroff. I'm the owner.
Thank you.
Proposed roof description, applicant proposes to construct a new mudroom, laundry, and half bath addition on the north elevation. New addition construction is to build a new mudroom, laundry, and a half bath addition on the north elevation towards the rear of the property. Replace the deteriorating shed in the rear of the property. The addition and shed will be covered with poly-ash, boral boards, and wood battens. All trim other than battens will be poly-ash. Roof shingles will match the existing fiberglass asphalt on the home. Foundation to be exposed CMU, gutters to match existing OG gutters. Staff analysis, including summary of any previous review. The following is taken from the approved December 8th, 2022 German Village Commission hearing minutes. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Foley asked what the existing fence height is. Applicant responded 6 feet. They asked the applicant to clarify which option they preferred out of the two. They would prefer option 2 since it will be a larger space and provides the overhang to the back door. Asked applicant to clarify the materials of the new addition and shed. Commissioners recommend applicant use boral for the board and wood for the batten. Would be fine with using the hardy board on the proposed shed. Commissioners asked applicant to clarify what type of foundation material they are proposing to use. Applicant asked if permission will be fine with smooth face block. The commission did not have issue with the material on the new addition and where it is located. Commissioners stated they would be fine with either option proposed for the addition. They did not have an issue with option 2 wrapping around. It would be wrapping around the 1993 addition and not historic. At the February business meeting, the commission asked the applicant if the applicant had reached out to BZS for variance to the overhang. Applicant was in attendance and stated that they had reached out and variance would not be needed with the updated overhang. Drawing A4 and A5 were not consistent in respect to the overhang. Applicant was asked to amend one of the drawings. They were also asked to clarify if the new shed will need a poured foundation since it's over 8 feet in height, and submit final siding, shingle, door, and other material selection, including boral board product information. Applicant has amended drawings, indicated the shingles will match existing fiberglass asphalt GAF slate line. The poly-ash boards are Boral 5/8 by 12 boards, and the only doors in the project are the doors to the storage shed. The doors are constructed with the Boral boards and wood battens used for siding. Staff recommendation, staff recommends approval with any and all clarifications presented to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issue of certificate. The basis for the staff recommendation is 311612, standards for new construction, CDFNK, and the German Village Guidelines, alteration to existing structures, additions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Anything else to add?
I just want to clarify the question that was raised about the foundation. As you're aware, both the zoning code and building code state these storage structures do not require building permits, but the structural engineer has designed it so it's more robust than any storage structure you could pick up off the shelf. It's designed for wind loading, it's designed for typical gravity loads. The slab is reinforced. With any storage structure, there is potential for heaving, but it seemed excessive to put a full depth foundation under that. And the reason the foundation is exposed CMU is we're so close to grade that you're not going to see, if you look at the photos of the existing house, you can't see the existing foundation because we are so close to grade. The little, in the photograph, what you see are some stones upturned defining the planting bed. So that's why the foundation is somewhat unfinished.
Any questions, Councilor Commission?
The sections show like the minimal overhang, but on one of the elevations, like the rear wall of addition has a full overhang.
The rear wall of the addition has a much deeper overhang. But the overhang facing the neighbor is limited by keeping both the gutter and the overhang beyond the 2-foot limit. And the fire rating continues under that overhang, but so to maintain in that, stay within that. But that 1 3/4 overhang off the trim wraps around back, but then at the door, it gets deeper to create the cover at the door.
Yeah, I just wondered, okay, so at the window, the overhang at that extension, there is an overhang into the rear yard. When it wraps around to the door, is there an overhang or is it back to minimal to match the other side?
When it gets over the door or the
Well,
window?
just when it wraps the corner.
Oh, when it wraps that corner, it's the same 1 3/4.
Okay, so the side walls are the same, it's just that rear wall that is a true overhang. Yeah, that works.
Any other questions? There's no questions. Is there a motion?
Before to make a motion,
Yes.
apologies. I believe a condition was dismissed, no worries, Nicole. Just final materials for windows and doors, specifications be submitted to staff
Yes.
as well, was one of our conditions.
The window is identified. There's only one. It's identified on the drawings. It's a Marvin wood clad window.
Thank you. Steve.
Mr. Chairman, item GV 2302-010, 750 South Lozelle Street, I move that we approve it as submitted with appropriate submittals for windows, doors, et cetera, that HPO may require.
Second. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving ahead to item 4, GB-23-02-011, 41 East Columbus Street. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, not the truth. I do. Please state your name for the record. Prove that. Thank you.
The proposed work description is to install a new door to remove the existing deteriorated non-original exterior door on the west elevation of the primary structure, to install a new 6-panel fiberglass black finish door. Staff analysis including summary of any previous review. Applicant initially reached out in January to replace a non-original door. Staff informed the applicant that the fiberglass door would need to be reviewed by the commission, and the applicant decided to move forward with the fiberglass door. At the February business meeting, the commission requested the applicant clarify which door was set for replacement, east, west, or both, and clarify if the door is in the historic structure or an addition, or if the door is a non-original opening, and to clarify if the trim or jamb will be impacted. Commission requested a clear spec sheet of the proposed door and a photo of the elevation on the front door entrance area. Staff recommends to continue the application to allow applicant time to select a more compatible door. And the basis for the staff recommendation is City Code 3116111, standards for alteration 3, 6, and 12.
Anything else to add? No. Questions, comments from the commission?
So this is an historic opening.
I believe that was up for discussion. Last meeting, it appeared that the openings may have been altered from the business.
Altered in what way?
Possibly moved from the front facade, I think was a discussion point. We couldn't find any record of it being altered or changed. This is the only record we have of indication of the door on the side.
That photo is dated.
1980, I believe.
I think that photo there, that's actually the neighbor's door. Mine would be on the opposite side. Okay.
Yeah, so from the, you can kind of see it in this photo, but from the street view photos last meeting, you can kind of make out that there were, it's patched in brick on both sides of the principal facade. Looks like the doors were patched in and moved to the side. If you look at the close-up picture of the existing door, you can see evidence of brick essentially cutting and infilling. So it appears that the doors were moved at some point in the past, obviously back before that photo date. And the questions at this meeting were A, the door material, fiberglass door, B, the style of door being a 6-panel versus a 4-panel. What would be appropriate to go in right now is a flat slab door. So it's a 6-panel provable in the,
Yeah, looking at the windows too, so they're
yeah, the windows are not the right size either from,
probably pre-district. Yeah. So I mean, I think gotta look at this as whether you were coming and asking for a door opening there because it was a window and yada, yada, yada. And would reapprove a fiberglass door on a historic building. We did have an application on Sycamore Street next to the glass studio for fiberglass, and we asked them to go back to wood, and they did. Because we didn't, guidelines really don't allow us to put fiberglass doors on historic structures.
I will say there was a previous application that was approved for smooth fiberglass in a storage structure. I can't remember the address off the top of my head.
It's on Fifth Street.
Yeah, on Fifth Street. So I will say they're
Wonder if Fifth to be back.
recent. Our recommendation of not to approve that. I can't remember how the approval went on that.
It was
The
a
test case.
Yeah.
test case, yes, because it was
Correct.
extremely high-end
Thank you, Commissioner.
door. Yeah. I had to get my head there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when was that application from, do you remember?
House just got done.
Last year.
I'm gonna say 2 years ago, so it's been under construction for at least.
Well, that one was approved. And a second test case of that same door came back. I think it was Joe Glenn, actually. Joe Glenn door, the smooth fiberglass. And that was last year, I believe. I just can't remember the address off the top of my head, but it's Fifth Street.
So coming up on it's installed for a year or it's been installed for less than a year?
Less than a year.
Mhm.
So the test case is not closed.
Mhm.
So if the test case is successful, that would lead us to a fiberglass smooth door or just fiberglass door in general.
It was fiberglass smooth for that test case.
So that would be one option for fiberglass door is if when that test case is closed out and deemed to be successful, a smooth fiberglass door would be approvable. In this case, you're showing a 6-panel fiberglass door, which we have not had test case in fiberglass, much less a six
Six
panel.
panel, yeah.
And typically we go for 4 panels over, as in lieu of 6 panels.
Okay.
Different guidelines.
Yeah, I guess the only issue is I already purchased the door and wasn't made aware of it,
geez.
so. I wish I could go back and obviously, change it, but understand that, is what it is.
And I understand the frustration, the heartache of that.
Yeah, there you go.
From a commission standpoint, you gotta look at appropriateness.
Yep.
The fact that, to me, the fact that it's a non-traditional material, not wood, and it's a 6 panel, not a 4 panel. I have trouble saying yes.
Would a door permit for any address in the village, should they have a permit on the Franklin County Auditor site? Because I really just had tried to match it up with the neighbor who, I know, current neighbor isn't the neighbor now, but the door's been replaced within the last couple of years.
It's on the other side of the building,
Yeah.
same building, other side?
Yeah.
So that opens up, in my mind, a case of if there is another door on the other side.
Try to couldn't tell you if this picture's updated because he
And
painted
that
the
came
door.
before the commission too.
I just didn't see it. That, honestly, that's what I looked
The other
up.
side of this.
I was like, hey, does that guy have any permits? Because I know the door got replaced in the last year and a half, and I didn't see one on the auditor site. It's not the current owner.
Yeah,
House was sold.
you can, staff should be able to pull up any previous applications for
Okay.
that.
And there was one.
Was there? I just didn't see it on the
remember us
auditor
talking
site.
about that.
That's-
I can remember us talking about the other side. And we had some talk about the awning over the door, I think, and some
Yeah.
other stuff, yeah.
I can look up that information.
Okay.
Of course, provided.
Yeah,
That
me being naive to
That,
absolutely.
yeah, that was your side, and I'm not sure which, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If I could make a recommendation for you,
Sure.
I would recommend to continue the application,
Okay.
to get that information identified.
Okay.
If we can show that there was approval on the other side for that door and your door matches that door, I think that opens up
Okay.
a path forward for you. If not, then we need to figure out what the remedy is.
Cool. Yeah, the only thing I don't know if it was a wood door, I guess. It's a piece of.
You already bought this door?
I did, yeah,
So
unfortunately.
is it still in the box?
Yeah, it's at Lowe's.
They'll swap it.
Yeah.
Okay. The only issue I
Not
think
a
that there
guarantee
might
they'll
be
swap it, but there's
is
a high
it had to be
likelihood
custom
they will.
made to fit the,
Custom size.
yeah, custom size. So that was the only, I'm actually texting the guy at Lowe's right now to see if I can just return it. to be
Custom
honest.
size, maybe not.
Yeah, so that's the only, I guess, concern was like, yeah, I already bought it. So I did shoot him a text to see if I can return the door. So if I can
Start
start
advertising on Facebook.
See what the other permits, the COAs were in this property, because I know we did one. I just can't remember which side it was.
Okay.
I want to say it was on the west side.
Yeah, that'd be 37.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just don't want to go up for vote and have it denied for you
that's fine.
if
Yeah, that's
we
crazy.
got a path forward for you.
Yeah.
If you're not, yeah.
Any other questions you have for us?
I do not, so just follow up with Morgan then on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have staff take it.
So you want us to continue, you do want us to continue, obviously. On item GV 3202-012, 41 East Columbus Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes.
Thanks.
Yes. All right, moving ahead to item number 5, GV-23-02-012, 772 Yeager Street. If you both please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, your name, sir?
Donald Samuelson, owner,
Thank you.
Paul Caldwell contractor.
Thank you.
Proposed work description is new construction of a rear two-story addition. It's to build a two-story addition off the rear east of the main structure. First story to be 15 feet by 15 feet 6 inches by 22 feet. Second story to be 15 feet 6 inches by 12 feet. Dig out a full basement under the new addition to be 15 feet 6 inches by 22 feet by 8 feet. Addition to include expansion of the first floor living room and second floor bedroom. Staff analysis including summary of any previous review. The most recent COA application for 772 Yeager was a request for action. However, staff found that the materials were not complete enough for action to be taken on the application to determine the application should be reviewed as conceptual per CC 311607. The following is taken from the approved December 8th, 2022 German Village Commission hearing minutes. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Durst asked what type of roofing materials on the main house. Applicant responded stating that it's an asphalt 3-tab. Commissioners stated that they typically do not approve roofs to an addition to be attached to the cross gable to the original roof. The connected roof does not help differentiate the new structure from the old. They typically approve a hyphen between original roof line and new addition to be lower than the eave line. Hyphen typically about 2 to 3 feet long with the addition to be built off of it. The ridge of the new addition to be subservient to the primary structure. They appreciate the applicant has inset the addition to expose the corner of the principal structure and not have issue with the rear addition, and stated that applicant is almost there in the design. Commissioner Durst, sorry, my apologies, asked what type of foundation material applicant is proposing. They stated that they will be using split face block to match current, stated that corner board, siding, and trim details to match guidelines. Commissioner Durst stated the applicant will need to submit final architectural drawings of elevations and floor plans, as well as final details for materials to be submitted for action. At the February business meeting, commissioners requested to cut a cut section from front to back, west to east, to show how the addition will engage with the existing roof line, with the flashing details to be included. Commissioners requested a site plan that shows the setbacks for the structure. Commissioners requested applicant provide floor plans to indicate how much of the original material to be removed from the existing structure with the new addition, and request the applicant submit final and consistent material list. The staff recommendation is the staff recommends that staff should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future GBC meeting. The basis for staff recommendation, noting there's no action required, is 311612, standards for new construction, ACHIKN.
Right, anything else to add?
I don't think so, not unless you guys, just whatever questions you guys had that we could answer for you guys.
Sure. Questions, comments from the commission?
I think at the business meeting, what we meant by a hyphen is that the connector between the existing house and your new addition is just something that, you know, would be shorter, which you've shown.
Correct.
But you've shown it almost as if it's the same as it was before, it's just missing the gable roof at that point.
So the difference between the prior drawing is that the new addition gable roof was falling into it with 2 valleys going into the roof. So that would make it continuous. The hyphen now is that you're gonna have a flat roof that's separating the addition from the actual current structures, giving it the historical look to keep.
But now the entire addition still has the flush wall.
No, it doesn't. There's always a bump in on the outside.
It did, but the addition and the connector share the same wall plane.
So what you say is you say that the main house, you step it back for the addition portion to then, traditionally it would step in and then step back out for the rest of the addition?
You can make a larger rear addition if the hyphen is the only portion that's narrower.
Creates kind of like a little accordion effect, basically, a little narrow piece between the new part and the original part.
But it's
We was never planning on doing the hyphen as that. We just had the setback so that you had the separation over there on the corner where the existing home is and the addition. We have the step back where it sets back in about, I believe it's 8 inches, give or take. I don't know the top of my head, I apologize. So that it's able to correct, so that sets back in so that they're separated. We was never planning on having that that's never been a plan to have that flush with that outside wall. That's always been a plan of having that set back in.
Right, but it would look better if the connector was narrower than the rest of the addition.
I mean, we can do, I think it would look better if we didn't have a flat roof between the two, but,
Could we expand back out to that previous line of the house, go in 8 inches and then come
That's what I
back?
think that the flat roof would look better
So we
if
could-
that's the only piece that's narrower.
So it's like that flat roof is being expressed on the side of the house. So you.
So we actually bump it out wider back to that 8 inch
Back,
width.
yes.
So it's truly just a connector piece between the two.
So the
parts.
lower half would actually, or the further back area would actually be in the same plane as the existing house.
Yes, right.
But
Same
there's like
plane.
a 3-foot section that steps in.
yeah.
Yeah, it lets that flat roof read as its own little slice of the building, basically, and the rest of it is more traditional with the traditional roof.
So just have that 3-foot slide, step back, and then have the rest of it extend out.
Right, and I think in some previous examples, in that connector, people have put windows on top of each other so that the connectors
Yeah,
more transparent than solid.
Okay.
Any questions on the window selections and fenestration? These windows all from the approved windows list?
What was, I got back here, I apologize, sir.
Oh, the windows that are chosen for the addition, are they part of the, are they listed on the approved windows list?
Yes, and I have a material list. I believe they are the gelled win, metal. There should be a file that was sent over that has all the, that was selected directly off of the approved, window list that you guys sent me. Yes, sir.
It says white vinyl window.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, so I realize that I shouldn't be recused.
Okay.
Accusing myself of this.
Thank you.
Just looked at the address.
Too close, gotcha.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke.
So the windows being gel win, sightline, wood, exterior, interior, you're saying that the drawings show a note.
It says a white vinyl window. Page 3.
So you're telling us it's gonna be the gel win window, not the
Yeah.
little window?
Correct.
Okay.
And I can adjust that for you guys. That's not a problem.
We just need to make sure to make a note of that on the.
And initially it was going vinyl. I must have forgot to change that over, so.
No worries. On the existing house, what type of gutters are there currently? Is it K-style or half rounds?
So they have, in the existing house, they have box gutted all the way around.
Okay.
So,
At some point, they were wrapped in a vinyl material, so you can't really see them anymore.
yeah.
I only ask because typically, sometimes people will have half around the main house, they try to put K-style in the back and we want to try to match. In the case of box gutters, not necessarily. So I just want to make sure we knew it was there, so when we approve.
Yes, sir.
A quick question from staff based on that comment. It appears that the soffit on this addition will be wrapped in vinyl. I'm assuming it would be to match the existing home. The commissioners would be okay with that material choice for the soffit of the new addition, or would they prefer it to be of wood? So we typically recommend.
Thoughts on that?
We never allow vinyl
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Which brings up the question of, we don't allow vinyl, and we also don't allow, it's not appropriate for vinyl. And sometimes we see, soffits, typically don't approve vent soffits. So typically you want to have like the Cobra vent or something like that up on the roof as opposed to a vent soffit. Didn't see any mention of vent soffits on this application. Just want to put that out there.
No, I don't know if it makes a difference. I know that the neighboring houses do have vinyl soffit.
A lot of the vinyl you see in the village was done either without approval or
Okay.
done prior
No.
to the commission.
Okay, not a problem.
Sure.
So do you guys want a hardy board or do you guys want a plywood? What's your guys' approval for your soffits?
Don't think we ever had a hardy board soffit.
It's typically, it's typically maybe tongue and groove or, I think maybe plywood. We have details on that we can submit to you.
Okay.
For what is approved.
Yeah.
Can allow.
I would consider that part of the details that would go to staff for the final. So with that said, I'd like to amend your application to have an appropriate wood. Soffit. Yeah.
And this is conceptual as of now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
conceptual. I apologize.
Right.
I just think the addition ought to be built to the standards that we would expect without consideration of what's on your existing house. Come down the road, bring the rest of the house into historic compliance.
Any other comments from the commission on the, there?
Staff does have a comment.
Yes.
Okay.
Hope so.
Just a quick question for drawings, there's some clarification for the applicant as well. Is the commission looking for, architectural drawings of the elevations, overall floor plan, site plan? for it to be considered an action item or for it to be, considered for.
They can lead it for the building permit.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify with the commission as well. Just
Typically, we'd be looking for what would be submitted for building permit is what we would expect to have submitted at the hearing.
That's
Okay.
typically what you stamp.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
just clarification, just for previous comments about the architectural drawing. I
Okay.
just want to make sure that we're all on the same page,
Sure.
for that. And we could send examples of those, to you as well.
Those would be stamped by a design professional.
Not for single family residents, no.
City code just needs structural, right?
No,
No,
No?
no,
no.
no, if
One,
it's,
what is it, one in, up to 3 family? You don't need a
it's
license?
like that, as long as you're the owner occupant.
Yeah.
Because if it's unsafe, you're just killing your own family. So it's not the public.
It's got dark.
State of Ohio.
They will stand before the city.
Any other questions? All right.
Are we not for the permit or?
So this is conceptual at this moment, since we do not have the architectural drawings and everything, kind of clarified and solidified for the packet, we, put it as conceptual for this review. Once those materials are submitted, then it can come as an action item in front of the commission. We base that off of City Code 3116, and I can't remember off the top of my head, I apologize, 07 for complete applications to be reviewed as action items.
So there's a couple items that we mentioned about the fascia board and all that stuff. And then you want different formatted drawings with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so we will need those, as again, for the process, it will be a week after the deadline, to resubmit for a new application, since it is conceptual at this time, would be the process.
Okay, but we can get on the next meeting or is that
Yes.
not?
If that's submitted before or on, what is next?
Are we doing another
Next Thursday.
conceptual meeting? Or is it on here? Or is this an approved for action?
This is conceptual at this time.
The next one, is that gonna be conceptual or are we gonna be able to go to approved for action?
Depending if we get all the materials, requested by the commission.
If you get the materials and you get it in, then we can take action at the next.
What was the deadline on that?
The deadline would be, so the deadline is tomorrow for, other applications, not for anyone here present, and it would be the 9th, February 9th at 4 PM.
Okay, can we do me a favor? Can we make sure we look at this in detail while we're here? Cause it's like the fourth conceptual that we've done. And every time we came here, something has switched or something's changed the way you guys want it. So I want to make sure that we can kind of get this moving along. So if we could just do like in deep detail while we're here, just so that we make sure that we get everything addressed that you guys want addressed on the next one, so that we're not wasting another 3 months.
And staff has sent examples of architectural drawings, to follow or for reference, for final drawings for this edition, previously. We can send those again, of course, but we have submitted those from previous conceptual reviews. But of course, commission, whatever.
So everything you have on here as far as materials, we don't see any harding with materials based upon our conversation. Massing, we don't see any harding with massing. It's going to come down to the architectural details. I don't think there's anything on here that's a heartburn to anybody. There is, please.
No, I think we just need more information.
From what we
Not the
have,
details.
we can't really go into a lot of the new detail, minute conversations and review without having the full drawing set with the details of their own.
Yeah, like, are you gonna have corner boards? What kind of trim are you gonna have around the windows? That kind of stuff is what we need to see that it's complete.
All right.
All right, conceptuals, no action taken.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we'll send the following comments and, additional materials for reference.
Okay, you said the 9th, right? For
Yes.
So.
And you'll email me all that tomorrow?
We will get it to you as soon as we can. Minutes typically take 3 to 5 business days, to complete, but we'll try to get those to you as soon as possible. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving on to item number 6. Yeah, 6. GB 23 02 013 736 South Fifth Street. The record show Commissioner Farrell is back on the panel. If you please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Brenda Parker, I'm the architect.
Thank you.
The proposed work description is, this is conceptual for a new carriage house with a second floor dwelling unit. To construct a new carriage house structure that's 510 square feet in the rear of the property on Purdy Alley East. Construct a new concrete apron to approach a garage. A new brick walkway and patio will be installed around the new carriage house, and a new tree is to be planted. Staff analysis, including summary of any previous review. At the February business meeting, commissioners requested a list of variances that are expected to be needed and a preliminary alleyscape. Soffit vents are not recommended. Staff recommended a hip ridge venting or eave venting. Commission asked the applicant to discuss if there will be a fully habitable space above the garage. If habitable, will another parking space be needed? Will there be a full kitchen with a bathroom? Commission requested height of proposed new carriage house and height of existing primary structure to compare. Applicant provided requested materials. Applicant provided that soffit vents will not be allowed by the building code to the proximity of the property line. Approach will be to use closed cell spray foam to serve as a vapor barrier, eliminating the requirement for added ventilation. The space above the garage will be fully habitable. The council variance will request a separate dwelling unit. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends that the commission offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future TPC meeting. The basis for the staff recommendation, noting that there's no action required, is 3.1.16.12, standards for new construction. A, C, D, E, F, G, H, K, L, M, N.
Good, thank you. Anything else to add from the applicant?
So I'm sorry you have to hear another carriage house case. Maybe the good news is that the main house is a full 2-story structure. The hardship with this property is the narrowness of the lot. It's super narrow. It's only 20 feet and it's super long. So it is just a single car width. Just to get a little bit more room above, we did stretch it out to about 2 feet from the property line on the north. And hearing the overhang conversations reminded me that, oh crap, I forgot about that requirement. So I think we're gonna have to pull it back in so that our overhang falls within that 2 feet from the property line. So I think the carriage house is gonna have to go from 15 feet wide to 14 feet wide. So with, yeah, it's been a while since I've been in front of the Durham Village Commission, so I wasn't sure what materials you guys were accepting currently. So I threw the Hardy out there just to see what the response was, but it's an easy swap to Boral or another material.
Questions or comments from the commission?
How tall is the primary structure?
So on the site plan, if you can see on the left is the primary structure, which is 24 feet, and the new structure is 21 feet.
21.
So it is 3 feet shorter than that existing house. And there is kind of an alleyscape. It's an interesting mix of structures. They are mostly garages. There is one house, but that's probably due to the lot split. I think it's kind of like the City Park case that came before, where the house fronted the alley.
So typically, the hardy would not be an approvable.
Okay,
We've had a bunch of test cases out there and shed's okay, but not for a structure.
okay. So I heard, the last case, or two cases before, was using the poly ash, which is the boral, right? Yeah, okay.
And typically, on that application, I believe it was a board and batten situation.
Yeah,
We have approved hardy flat sheet goods with the
okay,
wood battens.
yeah.
I don't, it may have changed, but I don't think Boral makes a flat sheet good. I think they're all just horizontal siding.
Correct, the owner wanted to do a lap siding.
Okay.
Um,
So for lap, Boral makes that, but if you're trying to do a board and batten, Boral doesn't make the board, which is why they
Yeah.
approved hardy boards, just not hardy planks.
Gotcha. So we'll propose to switch it to the boral. I think they only make the nickel gap. I don't think they make the lap siding anymore.
Yeah, I know they had changed.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
But since it's a separate structure, I think that's okay that it's
New build,
slightly
approved nickel
different.
gap siding previously.
I believe, I can look
Yeah.
back.
We've had several nickel gaps in the past.
So if you were here for the earlier conversation, you know that I'm highly unlikely to approve a carriage house unless it looks like a garage.
Yes, the message has been reinforced many times. So when I did the design, I gave them a lot of different options. And one was, basically a garage with just dormers. It's tricky because it's so skinny that we have to make it really, make it long in order to kind of get, usable space for the one car and the storage on the first floor and get usable space upstairs. So I don't know if the dormer would be compliant at that point, because we want it to be either two dormers or a longer dormer. And so it just kind of, it's tricky.
So I'll throw something out there, not sure if you discussed with them, looking at the real elevation of the house, was there any discussion about putting addition to the house as opposed to getting extra height in the garage?
No, I think they want this as a separate dwelling.
So have you discussed with them the zoning variances? Are you aware of the zoning variances you're gonna need?
Yes, I've done
You've
this.
heard about
many.
notifying the neighbors about additional
It's
parking?
listed, it's a council variance because it's the two dwellings on one property, and the frontage variance because it's fronting onto an alley and not a street.
And parking requirement.
Right, the parking would be 4 and we only have 2.
You only have one.
There's one on the
I
apron.
don't think that's gonna count.
It does for zoning code.
Sure.
I think you should check the zoning.
Check on it.
To have a,
It blocks the garage, which still leaves the other one.
Well, you're allowed to do tandem. This is the same concept. It's a
Okay.
tandem
I
spot.
would go to the zoning and ask.
I will.
I'm not gonna have that argument with you,
Yeah.
okay?
I'll ask.
But you still need to notify all the neighbors within a certain perimeter of your house. of this-
So just to clarify again, because I haven't been in front of German Village in a long time. Do we need to notify for the next German Village vote case or as part of the council variance?
German Village requires notification to the neighbors as
Okay.
part of the zoning coming to us for the recommendation that would then go to
Gotcha.
city and BZA, whoever else.
We don't want to make a recommendation unless we've heard from them.
Yeah.
Neighbors who care.
So this is conceptual, so I can get feedback. Then we'll submit for the council variance. They'll do their staff report, so you get that, and then we'll come back for the vote. So everyone and I'll send the letters.
Sorry, I was a little confused by that. So,
So my next step after this meeting is to submit for the council variance.
So we would recommend just discussing with building and zoning of what variances you'll need, because they'll have to come back here for recommendation from the commission before it gets sent to city council for being voted on.
So, but do you guys not care about their staff report then?
our
So
report?
the city council. stuff.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
A lot of the commissions won't vote until they see what the city council staff report says.
We've had variances come through where it's just been a discussion with building and zoning of what will be needed based off the design
Okay,
of what you're proposing.
Yeah.
okay,
So typically we recommend the variances and design come to the commission around the same time.
okay.
So they can be recommended and approved in conjunction before going to city council.
Okay.
If I'm correct,
commissioners.
Yeah.
Yes.
City council staff report.
It's the same as a zoning variance.
That's what I assumed.
Cycle through the other departments, so you
Yeah,
can see
that's
what
what I
the feedback is.
Yeah, technically, I never see what happens on that end.
Okay,
I think it's exactly the same thing. I think we're just, it's a matter of semantics. Yeah.
okay.
If I'm correct, of course.
But of course you are.
Well, I'm just making sure with the commissioners.
We'll let HBO
So
staff
we've been
clarify
around.
all that. for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I think, my 2 cents is I think the hurdles will be, a, what is essentially a dwelling unit, facing an alley of all one-story garages, basically.
Right.
Going to be the challenge you're gonna have.
And this is so narrow, it's extremely vertical.
right.
And to reiterate what he said, inappropriate massing completely. It's not even, the garage is a one-car garage, but you got a huge bunch of space in the bottom because of your living space above. All I can say to you is, wow.
So if we brought it down to garage scale and did some dormers just to get some usable space up there, how do you guys feel about the length? Have you ever done a tandem one-car garage to get?
One car before, behind it, yes.
Yes.
We've done
Okay.
tandems. I have not seen a tandem with living space on top. I've seen
No.
just tandem.
Just tandem regular garage?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't think that the length is necessarily the issue. It's the length with the height. It's the overall scale and massing of it. It's basically challenging the original principal structure minus that back addition. And that relationship is troublesome.
okay.
I think it now has the same proportions as that house that's on the
It
alley.
does.
And
Mhm.
therefore it doesn't look like a garage. So I
Mhm.
think if you could bring that knee wall down and
Mhm.
then make up the height with dormers, it would look better.
Okay. Okay.
It's a challenge.
Sometimes you just have to hear it, and then revise from there.
Absolutely.
So is your intent only to make a one-car garage, or would you actually have a two-car garage just tandem?
I think the tricky part is getting the stair in there, that because it's so narrow, the stair doesn't really allow for that second car.
Stairs, you gotta have.
They have to be 3
Two-foot
feet.
stair.
Mhm. But, another person could come in and rip the stair out and use it as a tandem and just have a pull-down ladder and use that as storage up there.
There's a whole.
Is there any ability, just throwing ideas out here, to have a second car, have a switchback stair, but like a 90-degree stair to kind of push the stairs further back towards the back to give you that room for 2 cars in there?
Yeah, I think that might even stretch it out even further. Just because it'd be 6 feet plus 18 feet plus 18 feet, because that's the required city of Columbus parking space. So I don't think we're gonna be able to get that second space in the structure. So I'll visit with City of Columbus zoning to see if the sideways spot on the apron works, and if that doesn't work, then we could always scooch the garage and shrink it to have a tandem space on the apron.
I've seen garages with the stairway running parallel to the short end of the garage. I'm not sure with with the width of this garage, whether you can do that.
Maybe I'll test it out.
Yeah, and then the door, of course, then at the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tricky part is when you get the stair there, I've got to have 6'8" at the top. And so then my dormer, like I can't then have like an offset dormer. It gets, these carriage houses, they're like little puzzles.
That's why there aren't many of them out there.
Like in a historic neighborhood.
True.
Well, and again, if we had more width to do a normal two-car garage,
This
you
is a
know,
really narrow lot.
it's
That's,
really narrow.
Is that typical on this alley? Because that one house that you showed looked like it was very narrow as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this one is exceptionally narrow. I think they get
Yeah.
to like 30 feet normal.
Or 24, actually.
So the other, yeah, across the alley, they obviously have a lot wider lots because they're getting 3-car garages.
it's almost like this house was built in a space between two other houses that was originally part of those yards.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I have what I need. It's-
Conceptual, no action necessary. Thanks for coming in. All right, we do have one piece of old business. That is item GB-23-02-014, 120 Reinhardt. Once you're all settled, if you please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Good. Charles Weir.
Thank you.
Mark Curiella.
Thank you.
The proposed road description is for landscaping and hardscaping. There was an application approved in June of 2022 for new hardscaping with a permeable base. That's GD 22060033. The installation of a new concrete, an area of previously approved bluestone and brick pavers. Pavers were to be installed on top of a permeable base, crushed gravel, or pavers to be installed on top of a permeable base, crushed gravel, and concrete. Staff analysis, the hardscaping at 120 Reinhardt was originally brought to staff attention by a community member. Staff informed the community member they could file a complaint with 311. When code enforcement investigated the complaint, staff reviewed the file for 120 Reinhardt and found the concrete was not approved with the original COA. What was approved for under bluestone and brick was 1.5 inch of limestone screening, number 9 compacted, and 4.5 inches of compacted 46D of permeable face. Note, as seen in a similar case in November of 2020, a concrete walkway was poured at 640 Mohawk prior to approval with a brick paver installed on a gravel bed. The condition for that approval was for holes to be drilled every 12 inches of the existing concrete to allow water to flow through. Additionally, a previous hardscaping application was approved to have concrete border with a permeable base within the border. Applicant is proposing crushed gravel underneath the pavers on top of the concrete. Staff recommendation is staff recommends that the commission offers feedback and continue the application and discuss solution for proper drainage at a future hearing. The basis for staff recommendation is 311613, standards for site improvements, and that's A, German Village guidelines, exterior considerations, walkways, sidewalks, driveways, patios, and parking lots, 1 and 2.
Anything else to add?
What's that?
Anything else to add?
No.
Questions,
You
comments?
want us to explain? Is that what you're wanting us to
We
do?
would love.
Okay, once the existing brick pavers, or not brick pavers, concrete pavers that were existing in there were removed, and we got into the subbase. The subbase is made up of a lot of soil and gravel mixture. And with the back lot already where the alley was abandoned on one end and the cars still penetrate into this residence, there's no asphalt in the alley, it's just mainly gravel. The water from the back areas were puddling down in that area. So with the grade elevations and everything, and already adding probably 6 inches or 6 to 8 inches of 304s after we excavated, we needed to make the grade change, and we were concerned about the subsoil not being solid enough that when water did set in there, because there's no place for the water on this lot to motivate to, so we were maintaining it to the site, that we wanted to put the concrete on there to roll it to the bed edge so that when the water does go there, it goes into the subgrade of gravel base that we put in, and it acts as a kind of a reservoir, but the concrete works as a bridge so that over time that the
where puddling is more likely going to happen doesn't settle in pockets, creating water pockets on top of the new pavers and so forth, pavers and bluestone, that instead it acts as a bridge and helps control the water to the site in the landscape beds and underneath the concrete. What it basically, the concrete was added for was to give it more structural support, especially with auto traffic being parking on the back portion.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
The other thing, we're still maintaining the overall look of a dry lake base because we're still putting the gravel granular between the concrete, which when water penetrates the brick or the bluestone, it still drains through. It just goes to the edge off of the concrete to the bed edge and then allows it to flow underneath into the gravel base that we added. If you want to add holes or drill holes in it to give it more permeability, we could do that as well.
So what is the slope on this drainage wise? Do you have a?
It's
bridge?
less than 0.5% on the concrete.
Less than a half?
It's it's right around 0.5%. You're getting about 1 inch for every 10 inches of fall. Or 10
But
feet.
where's the high point on the slope?
The high point is up against the house.
Okay, so it's sheet draining towards the back of the property?
If the front half where the patio is, because there's a bed that separates most of it,
Yes.
the front half drains into the bed that's in the middle.
Mhm.
And then the back,
Yeah.
Okay.
the back drains to the beds. It actually slopes a little bit more to the, which side would that be on? East. So the larger landscape bed on the east, not where the porta-john is, but the
Right,
other
the
side.
other side.
Yeah.
Where this, where the gate is.
And you can see where the back alley is gravel. When we excavated the old pavers out of there, that whole back area, pretty much up to, almost up to where the porta-john is right now, was covered with silt, I mean, dirt and silt because the water was standing there. Which to me is more of a nuisance with mosquito issues and other things that you get from water standing.
So all that soil under the old pavers, you've excavated and replaced with gravel?
We got down as, digging way down,
Right.
but you're digging
Little wet
down, and
stuff.
that's why I felt like the gravel that you find a lot in a lot of the old sites like this, it's just got a lot of contaminated pea gravel or stuff into the soil. And so right now we got 8 inches of 304s compacted underneath the 4 inches of concrete. And then we'll put on 1 to 2 inches of number 9s before laying the paver material.
So on that picture, this portion, the gravel here, that's outside the property line, correct?
Yes, that's coming right up to the abandoned alley. It's actually, I don't know actually who owns it really.
It's abandoned alley, you would have conversation. That property went up
It's,
now.
if you talk to any neighbor, they all own it, but but that's where the car traffic comes in, is across that gravel.
So you're putting, there's plant material that goes into that bed in front of the porta-john?
Right there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also, you approved a fence that goes through there and screens that. The fence is to the back edge and then the plants is on the inside, so. Yeah,
The concrete we're seeing is basically that blue section of
Yeah.
patio, that pinkish section walk there, and the white section for the concrete, the drive.
Yeah.
If all the water from the concrete is being directed into that plant bed, I almost wonder if you wouldn't do something like develop a rain garden there.
Well, the material going in there is rain. It's like materials that goes into a rain garden. I mean, they're water tolerant.
Plants.
Yeah.
So I could see, because I don't know that, I don't know, I know in the past when we had this situation, drilled, the holes were drilled in the concrete.
And that's perfectly fine. You can drill holes in there. Main thing is hitting the concrete in there as a bridge, because it may not be in my lifetime, but in at least 15 years, you're gonna get the subgrade breaking down from water pocket in there. Because we all know if water sets anywhere, it
Yeah, which
continues
is
to
why
get bigger and bigger.
I'm not necessarily a fan of introducing water under a concrete slab.
Well, I mean, it's typically the way it works in a lot of the roadways too. That's why the gravel base goes in.
Glad you have 8 inches.
What's that?
I said, I'm glad you have 8 inches under it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty much
Yeah.
almost vehicular grade.
Trying to think it through because there's really nowhere for it to go, so trying to make it a contained system.
What's the roof drain system on the house? Where they go?
Where's the roof drain system go?
Yeah,
I have no idea where the conductor lines go out. I'm assuming to the front.
Yeah, we haven't put them up yet.
Oh,
The downs.
yeah.
the reason why I'm asking is I don't know if there's any way that in that plant bed, you could get a perf pipe or something that could tie into that system. I don't know if you can get the fall to do it. Don't know what that
If there's a conductor lines that's running to the front, yeah, you could put a perf bed, because that planting bed goes all the way up to the house.
I think originally, there's like in between the two houses, I think there's like some concrete that's laid, that's between the two houses. And yeah, it just kind of runs down onto there and then just runs out to the front.
It's just like a concrete gutter.
Yeah.
It runs to the front.
Yeah.
So under that plant bed, how much aggregate is under that plant bed?
Well, you're down in 12 inches down in the plant bed right now, that will be elevating soil. And then with the pavers and everything going on there, you got another 3 inches on top of that, so there's gonna be 13 inches of soil going in there for the plantings. 13,
But
14.
if it were essentially a French drain, the gravel
Well,
would go much
that's what
deeper.
I'm already saying. Your subgrade soil has so much gravel in it, it actually works as a French drain.
But what if it was,
But it doesn't give you the structural support to drive auto traffic on. You're not following me. It's not the kind of aggregate that you can compact. It's a more looser aggregate that's more permeable. That's more in the subgrade. And normally when you get down to subgrade, it's a harder soil that you can compact it on. So by compacting our base, what I'm doing is engineering this with the idea that you are going to be pocketing pool underneath of that. What I don't want is that the pavers, when I dry lay in, after 4 or 5 years of driving on it with auto traffic, you get the tire ruts going through the pavers. I'm using the concrete as a structural bridge. Because I know the water's gonna be there.
so looking at Google map, and your back property doesn't really go to an alley. I'm guessing it's an easement across the neighbor's property and back.
That I cannot answer. I'm
You're-
just a
you're-
landscape.
yeah, you're landlocked. You're coming across the neighbors behind you.
What I was told is there's a abandoned alley in there that everybody.
I don't think it's an alley, it's an easement.
It's an easement.
Yeah, so bottom line is, how are you managing the water runoff on your property?
That's what I'm
That's the
saying.
bottom line. You,
It's-
you do not have access to the alley and back.
No,
So you've got to figure out a way of doing that.
that's where it's going underneath and draining through the subgrade, whatever water we're gonna be getting coming off of the paver patios.
Yeah, but I don't think, you're saying it drains to the east side on the one side? And a downpour, you're
The
gonna flood the
my
neighbors.
concrete slopes to the east, right near the bed. So
Yeah.
it has an edge that it can go down next to the concrete and then drain back underneath of it.
But what I'm saying is, to manage the water runoff on this property, you're not allowed to dump it on your neighbors?
I'm not dumping it
I'm,
on.
I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying as a fact. So how do you propose to manage this so that you're getting the water in a, and I don't know what the design, Karen? I don't know what the design parameters are, but in a good downpour, how are you
Yeah.
managing all that water hitting this pavement? And where are you putting it
That's-
so that it finally goes somewhere?
I don't think you're following me. The gravel that's underneath the concrete actually works as the reservoir.
But
To
my
allow,
question is, I am looking for engineering data that you
so-
have got a French drain in the back that will handle a whatever year storm water, and what is that made of? You're telling me it's gravel, et cetera, and yada, yada, that's fine, but what size gravel is it? Is it
If-
54s, or is it bigger? What is its
What
capacity?
big-
Now, what's the porosity of that? Yeah,
let's go a different direction here. If I didn't put the concrete in, where does the water go?
I'm not arguing concrete
The
at this
water
point.
just penetrates right down into the subbase.
Not unless it's heavy clay, it's not going to go down.
Exactly, and the only reason I put the concrete in there is because we don't have heavy clay.
And that's fine too, because I'm still asking you,
All that
I'm
water
still asking
coming
you
off is going down.
engineering data
It's going down.
of how you're managing the water on your site.
And that's what I'm telling you, it's going straight down on the site into the
Because we're
subgrade.
asking for mathematical calculations as proof.
Yeah, I mean, it's
How
not
would
going
you-
underneath the concrete's shedding it.
Can I,
No, but it's going underneath the concrete,
How?
can I ask a
because
question?
there's gravel in there.
But
And it
you- can-
penetrates.
Can I,
the
can I,
gravel.
can I ask a question? So this patio was approved. We're in here to discuss the concrete that we put in.
Yeah,
The changes to it.
Yeah, because you went from a permeable base to an
Yeah.
So, but
impervious
the
material.
water, but the volume of water that was gonna be hitting the paver patio without the concrete is the same.
but it goes directly
but
into
the
that
runoff
gravel
is
base.
Faster.
Now, yeah,
And so,
It's time of concentration when water
Right,
hits an
I
area.
understand that,
So the
but when
whole-
you
so-
have
so-
8 inches of gravel.
so the holes in the concrete would solve that?
The holes in the concrete would help. Because right now what's gonna happen is that water from the house out is gonna go into that plant basin.
Correct.
The water on the other side of it is going kind of to the opposite side of the lawn, into
plant
that
basin.
landscape bed. But we need to know, is that landscape bed gonna have the capacity to hold that water without it filling up and running into the neighbor's property?
But
And
that's where we're confused, because the landscape bed is not the only reservoir.
Right, but let's say, you're saying it will be enough, but there's no
nothing
calculations
that
to
says-
prove that it's.
I haven't reduced the drainage reservoir on it at all. I just redirected to water in the way it gets to the reservoir,
You redirected the water faster
to get to the reservoir,
to get,
to the same leaching area. You have the same whole leaching area.
What we're
It's-
saying is that, how do you know that that size of planting bed is big enough that when there's a downpour, The water
that's-
won't flow over before it can get into the reservoir,
And that's where where it won't flow over?
before it gets into the reservoir.
So we don't have anything that shows the grades or how you're
Yeah.
compensating for that. This application was approved based on a permeable base under all of that pavement. You now have a huge amount of impervious surface there. That creates runoff a lot faster because it's not going to percolate into the ground.
Basically, it's think of a bathtub. If the entire floor of the bathtub was a perforated drain, the water hits the floor of the bathtub and goes straight down, as opposed to it sheeting, trying to get down a smaller vertical.
I get that, but when you're laying the paper patio, you don't, even on a dry lay base, you're not laying it flat that it just penetrates everywhere. You still have a slope to it.
You do.
And you're
But it
still
slows
running
the
it, you're
water.
still running it off at a faster speed, not as fast as.
Not as fast as this will, though.
But you're still running it off at a faster speed to the same areas that I would run it to now.
So it goes back to still my concern of, I'm engineering data that proves to me you're not running water off onto your neighbors. And maybe we were inappropriate to approve permeable pavers back there. It should have been lawn. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, literally, the code says you cannot run water off onto your neighbor's property.
I understand, and
Yeah.
I'm not.
You're gonna have to prove that to me.
I don't know how to do that.
Spot grades and then looking at,
How's,
then it could be
if I do
calculated.
spot grades, what is that gonna show me as far as water calculation?
Spot grades would show where the water is going to go.
I-
Then it's a matter of looking at how much water is going to sheet off of that, which is an engineering calculation. And do you have the capacity to hold that onto your property and let it percolate in? So there are things
Without having a soil test, you wouldn't be able to do that either.
Maybe that's what we're asking.
you made a decision to put concrete down that was not approved.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to come up with some kind of,
I
condition that can
could
be
tear the
applied.
concrete out and put it back the way it was. And then the failure of the project in 5 to 10 years would be,
So my question is, what's more cost effective? Rip it out and put in what was originally approved? Or get somebody to run the calculations on drainage?
well, also holding up the timing of getting the project done.
Yeah, so
Huh?
you've got time.
No, the materials are, brick and pavers are there, and the homeowner's trying to get,
You made the decision, put in concrete, we're trying to help you.
well, it's either that, I mean, it's the auto traffic, I mean, it's into your best benefit. Because over long periods of time, you'll have the water.
The auto traffic would explain the parking pad. Doesn't explain any of the rest of it. So it's kind of
It is a parking pad, but you got weight on it.
that portion back there is the parking pad, the rest of it is not. So you can't just say this, it's due to vehicle traffic. Not all of it's due to vehicle traffic.
Well, you're trying to tie it all together too, but.
So, the holes in the concrete is, that you recommended the last time this happened is not good enough for this situation? Especially given, that, I mean, there is a, just listening to Charlie, there definitely was a high level of thought that went into what he did.
With one big gap.
So, I mean, it sounded like that the holes was that was a really good solution the last time this happened. That would be.
How many, what size, et cetera?
How did you determine that?
In this situation.
I'm sorry, how did you determine that the last time?
They had a very large lawn that they were draining to.
Percentage of lawn versus percent of concrete was not this percent.
25% maybe. They have a big yard.
So I guess like if in the middle of construction, you discovered really wet soils and came back to the commission and said, permeable pavers is not gonna work. I think we still would have asked for some proof that whatever it is you're proposing will actually work and not move any water onto your neighbor's land.
All right, so we get a civil engineer to go in and write a little letter about the amount of water and
Or landscape architect.
and what,
It's probably a landscape architect is what it would be.
okay.
Yeah, landscape architect doesn't do those calculations typically,
Yeah.
so engineers do.
Yeah.
Landscape architects do drainage.
They do grading, they don't do stormwater calculations.
Well, that's what I said, we get a civil engineer to write a letter.
I would have a civil look at it and give you.
Okay,
Shouldn't be too difficult or long-term of a calculation to do.
no, that's not.
It's areas of water flow.
Yeah.
We can produce that.
And they may recommend that plant bed, that one
Oh,
plant
yeah,
bed
for sure.
becomes a French drain.
Yeah.
With a lot deeper amount of, gravel.
Yep.
And then top dress it with, Black River rock or something, so it's
Yeah.
aesthetically.
And if it comes back, they can make it work, great.
Yeah, it could-
Then you
right,
leave it and
right,
just keep on
We're
going.
good to go.
Right, no, it's,
And you don't have to take out the concrete and all the benefits of the concrete you've got, so.
yeah, that's, we can produce that.
I
That's-
have a question. If it turns out that it's good to go, do they still need to put soil on top of the concrete before they put the brick pavers?
Well, we would, as part of. the
That's just good practice.
Okay,
They're putting, what that is that's a level, they put a level in.
Yes.
There.
that's all. it is.
It's really not for drainage, it's for leveling.
And I would make a
Because the
recommendation, if
material's not.
you get the calculations done
Yeah,
and it comes back, they can't make it work, I would ask the question to them at that point in time,
right,
if we put holes in the concrete, does
100%.
that work?
100%.
So we can
What
look at-
size of those holes?
That's
Yeah,
How many of those
what
holes?
spacing,
Totally,
all that stuff.
totally,
I
yeah.
want to find a way to get you where you need to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's-
In one shot.
yes, that makes sense. Now, I'm not gonna I got a letter, so
So
if this wasn't done by a certain date, we were gonna get arrested, so I just.
you've got
I'd like to stay out of
you
jail.
got to open the thing here, you're good. HPS staff will go check it out.
All right, we'll get that, letter from our civil engineer. Okay,
All right,
And we've, so this is action, so we have to vote on continuing.
Yep.
This is
Motion.
working.
On 120, is that right, Reinhardt Avenue, old business, I move to continue.
Second.
any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it.
all right, thanks, guys.
That is, movement adjourned, we got a movement, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it.
I didn't, did you actually send that one applicant copies of architectural drawings? And they just regularly use them?
Yeah, so we've sent them at least twice. And that's,
It's
I'm sorry if I spoke out of turn, but I just wanted to make that.
No, I just wanted to make it.
Yes, we've sent them, even discussing the details of what needs to be included on the architectural drawings, and that's what we got in return, so that's why we decided that's fine. We'll send them again, but hopefully, the conversation helped.
You have a rough road with that one.